Welcome, everyone, to The Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Hello there to B and Miss Kim, who are here already. Today, we're going to go over, is Tyler Robinson guilty? And for those of you who don't know, he's the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination. We're going to go over a Brian Etton interview first. Then we're going to check out what Candace Owens' most recent video is about it as well. And here's the thing. There's certainly some things that don't add up in this case. Now, other parts of it, though, could be explained by other variables, which we'll go over that too. So, again, the big thing in this is first understanding what is fact versus what is conjecture, what is speculation, what is unconfirmed, things like that. So, Rooster, it's beer o'clock for Rooster. Apologetic, how are you? This should be an interesting one because it's important to go through all the facts. And I'm sure there's more Candace videos about that too. But we shall see. We shall see what happens here. Hello there, Charity. How are you? As everyone comes in here, make sure you like the video. Leave your DNA on that like button. Spank the like button. All that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Hello there, D. How are you? Hey there, Bethany. I've been a little tired today myself, but I pulled myself up by my bootstraps to talk about Charlie Kirk and Tyler Robinson. Wouldn't they be proud? What else should I do? Of course, I have to pull myself up by my bootstraps if I'm going to talk about Charlie. Hello there, Laura. How are you? How was your stream the other day? Hi, Mod, Miss Kim says. All right, let's see what Brian Etton has to say for himself. Now, Brian Etton's thought on the video is he thinks, are all the conspiracy theories hurting the case? And again, the first thing to clarify would be which are conspiracy theories and which is evidence, right? That's the first thing to pay attention to. Hello there, Hector. Ballistics don't match up, eh? So Cash Patel, yeah, there's certainly some things that don't seem too good. Like, for example, in the very beginning, they were talking about how for the gun they say he used, it would blow off someone's head, is basically what they're saying. Now, I saw that, but there's also other variables too. Wind, distance, that does play a part too, but I haven't heard too many people talk about that. I have heard Andrew Wilson talk about that. But again, that's not really a defense of Tyler Robinson. It could be, though. It could be. But let's see.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I appreciate all of the support. The man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson is his name. He was back in court today. Today is Friday. You guys know I've been covering the Tyler Robinson case, the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin, really since the beginning. I think I got there the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I went to most of the court hearings. I took a break from it, obviously, when I was in Arizona covering Nancy Guthrie, but I plan to start going to them all again. Now, it's always quite a scene when Tyler Robinson arrives.
Now, this is pretty cool that Brian Etton is going to be going over this case too. That's important because I don't think you're going to get a politically biased perspective from him. Of all the people, I think you're going to get more of a straight down the middle take from Brian Etton. And that's why trust and reputation is so important, especially in this space, because when push comes to shove, you want to trust the people that have been trustworthy and are not just going to be propagandizing or grifting, for lack of a better word. I don't think Brian Etton is doing those things. So I trust him. I trust him in this case more so than others.
to court. He arrives in a fully fortified Humvee, and there's all these police escorts, and they close down all the roads around the courthouse. There's also a plane in the air, and it's like there's massive security at that courthouse for his arrival. With the latest on the case and the hearing today, Friday, there's a couple of big issues. First of all, Robinson's defense team wants to delay the preliminary hearing. That's when evidence is presented. It's currently set for the end of May, and preliminary hearings are a big deal. You learn a lot when there's a preliminary hearing. Now, also, the defense wants to boot cameras out of the courtroom, which is also a big deal. And I'll explain later with my guest why that could play right into their strategy of letting conspiracy theories grow. That's what my expert, who's a big-time defense attorney in Utah, thinks could be the play here. Because no cameras, then no real info comes out, and that's...
Now, I absolutely think there should be cameras in the courtroom. Press 1 if you think there should be cameras in the courtroom. Press 2 if you don't. But especially in a case like this, we don't need to be seeing these courtroom sketches. Like that's what we saw in some of the Nick Reiner court appearances, is those courtroom sketches. It's like, dude, I mean, I understand why they do it in some cases. The judges won't allow it. But I think this is a case, especially with all the questions and accusations circling around it. Let the cameras in. Let the cameras in, I say. But press 1 if you agree with that. Press 2 if no. You don't want cameras in the courtroom here.
It's really what breeds public distrust and all these theories to start circulating, because it sort of just becomes a vacuum. So more on that in a minute. But back to what happened in court. The defense claims the prosecution is not handing over key evidence. Listen to this.
The probable cause statement in support of the information says, in the middle of page 6, the rifle, ammunition rounds, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. We have not received the discovery, and I'm not talking about expert notice. I will address that. We have not received the physical evidence and the electronic evidence that supports those assertions made by Mr. Gray when he swore to the probable cause statement attached to the information.
Prosecutors laid out what they intend to present at the...
And yeah, the defense, they can certainly say that. If they're not getting all the information, that's not good for them. Like, they need the information. So they might try to use that to get some sort of mistrial too. So the prosecution in this case, I would say their case seems pretty flimsy to begin with. Now, allegedly, there are some confessions by Tyler Robinson, but we have to explore whether those are genuine or not. But the prosecution can definitely lose this on a mistrial if they're not careful.
Preliminary hearing, including surveillance video. The video comes from Utah Valley University. You remember we saw some of it. We saw still images, but they said, look, they've got a very...
Everyone should wish Kev's a happy surgery tomorrow. Send him some good vibes, by the way, please. So, flock of black sheep, good vibes to Kev. Thank you. Shadow wishes you some good vibes, Kev.
Very clear surveillance system there, captured the defendant coming onto campus. It was around 8 a.m. He was driving a gray Dodge Charger, pulled into the basically the parking garage. He was wearing specific clothes. There are apparently clear facial images of him, and he was there to scout the campus out, the prosecutors say. Then left campus, returned later on foot. This time was wearing some kind of disguise, basically a cap pulled down, they say, different shirts and pants. And then he was limping from a rifle in his pants. You guys remember that video that showed him limping. And then he made it to the area where, like, he was able to get the vantage point of where Charlie Kirk would be sitting, which I'm going to give you a lay of the land in a second. I actually went up on the roof, so I'll show you that in a second. And then they say he took the shot, then dropped off the building and ran into the woods. They also talked about the rifle and rounds, which they planned to talk about at the preliminary hearing. There were political messages, they say, on the rounds, etchings on rounds that were found in the house. And then the confessions. They say there are confessions here from Tyler Robinson.
I would like to take a look at those confessions, by the way. Are those the confessions of someone that was coerced? Or are they genuine confessions? What are they? What do you think, chat? Do you think they're real confessions by Tyler Robinson? Or do you think they were coerced or planted? Press 1 if you think they are genuine confessions. Press 2 if you think they were coerced or planted. And if they were a genuine confession, I think what they said was he was talking to his, I don't know what you would call it, boyfriend or something. And he said that to him that, oh, I had the chance and so I took it. I had the shot, so I took it. Do you think that's accurate? I'm curious your thoughts out there.
Handwritten notes to his lover. He said, I have a chance, I took it. The note initiates a text message conversation, a back and forth, which we've all looked at before. A lot of people think those texts are very, very strange. Also a confession on a messaging application where he said, allegedly, it was me, I did it. Thanks for all the times, the good times, goodbye. And then there's also a confession to a former law enforcement officer where he allegedly confessed to getting rid of the clothes he wore. Remember, there was like a family friend, former deputy who he turned himself into. There's also DNA evidence. There's the towel that the rifle was wrapped in. That allegedly, that according to prosecutors, was sent to the FBI for testing. There's a screwdriver found up on the roof where he got the shot off. The rifle was also sent for testing. And according to the prosecution, both came back with the defendant's DNA. So there's a lot of evidence there. Here are some of what prosecutors said about all this evidence. This is what they said in court today.
The state will present evidence that he left a handwritten note at his apartment for his lover to find. In that note, he says, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Cook and I took it. Right? This note was written.
Now, the interesting part about this case, that was a confession. I'm going to rewind it. But the interesting part about this case is how much you'll notice that politics are going to influence this entire thing. Where if this was not political at all, I could pretty much guarantee you people would have different opinions about some of the facts. Now, granted, that being said, because there's a political element of this, it does change some things as well. So both of those things can be true. But you understand what I mean, chat, that if this wasn't political in any way, wasn't Charlie Kirk, wasn't involving Turning Point, Erica Kirk, all that good stuff, the rumors about Israel or whatever, that certainly taints the case, right? We can all admit that. So some people will say, well, no, we're just telling the truth. Maybe. But it's going to be interesting to see how the political lens influences this.
Some of what prosecutors said about all this evidence. This is what they said in court today.
The state will present evidence that he left a handwritten note at his apartment for his lover to find.
So the state will present evidence that he left a handwritten note for his lover to find, that he did it.
In that note, he says, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Cook and I took it. Right.
He had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he took it. So this note, was it a planted note or was it a note that he did write himself? What do you think?
Right. This note was written before he left St. George and came to Orem and was left in his apartment. His roommate finds it, roommate/lover finds it. And this initiates a text message conversation back and forth between the lover and the defendant, where the defendant says, yeah, I shot Charlie Kirk. And I'm summarizing. Shot Charlie Kirk. I left the rifle behind. I had to leave the rifle behind, but I'm going to pick it up and then I'm coming home. The point is that there is substantial evidence of probable cause, far exceeding what probable cause requires. And it comes from a variety of sources. And so the defendant cannot show that the material he wants to present at the preliminary hearing would defeat probable cause. And in his reply, he says, well, that's circular because how can we make that showing if we don't have the underlying data to be able to attack the DNA evidence? Well, first of all, that attack wouldn't even affect those first three categories of evidence, right? The confession, the circumstantial evidence tying the defendant to the rifle, or the video evidence, right? But even if they were to find some expert that would say both labs independently got this wrong, and even if there's to find that kind of expert, which I think is speculation and probably against the grain, but regardless, you take that assumption, it still wouldn't defeat probable cause.
So I've been out to the scene at Utah Valley University. I've been there several times. One thing that confuses people is the layout,
Well, there's two parts of having a plan, right? One can be one that you're thinking about, and then you follow through. So I don't know if it's that black and white about it.
Tyler Robinson could have gotten up onto the roof, and it's actually very, very easy. And it's a strange layout for a campus. I shot this video in January when I went up on the roof. I wanted to show you guys again. So I've shown you guys this before a while back, but I just want to show you again because one of the main questions that I get is, how did Tyler Robinson allegedly get up on the roof? Was it difficult to make the shot? Was it hard for him to get up there? How did he do it? So I just wanted to show you guys again. This is the UVU campus.
So again, this guy, Tyler Robinson, is it possible that he was thinking about doing this and then in the spur of the moment he decided to? Or do you think, no, it needed to be completely planned out, and because it wouldn't have worked if it was spur of the moment? Which one do you think it is?
The courtyard where the shooting happened is right back there. But this is all, public area where people walk around. If you just go up these stairs right here, I'm going to walk up the stairs and show you guys. Again, this is the way the students get to and from class. This is a totally public, very accessible area. So if you just come up these stairs right here, you're suddenly up here. This is a walkway here, okay? So you can get between buildings here. And on this side, it's now gated off. This was not gated off before the Charlie Kirk assassination, but it is now gated off. And right beyond this gate, sorry, I'm out of breath. I think it's the altitude. Basically what investigators say Tyler Robinson did is, this gate wasn't here, so he just walked right over to that short little gate that you see over there, that more permanent gate. And then all you had to do is just go right on top of that, which anybody could do. It would just take a second. Just hop that, and then you would walk right out on the roof. That's the roof beyond that. So this walkway is level with the roof. So he just has to hop that little gate there, which is what police say did, and then walk out on the roof. And right over there on the edge would be a direct.
And I don't know about you, but I haven't seen too much of this part of it here. So he's saying they hop that little gate there, went onto the roof. I'd like to see the view. Now, of course, all that stuff is taken down, but still.
View, just the perfect line of sight to where Charlie Kirk was speaking. Again, this chain link fence, this is new. This was not here before the assassination. So they put this up once they started investigating, and this police camera system, that's also new. So this was all just open. And again, this is a very, very public walkway. So you just come up on this walkway, hop over that little gate right there, and boom, you're on the roof. And what's interesting is where Charlie was having his event and speaking down, it's almost like a bowl down in that courtyard. There are places that you could get up on the roof just like this all around. Kind of the way the university is designed. And I was talking to a student about this, is there's a lot of walkways up above on the roof line. That's how they designed it for students to get in between their different classes, just like this one that I'm on right here. And that student was actually telling me that when all of this first happened, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, how did he get up on the roof? And there was sort of this national dialogue about how he got on the roof, that all of the students here were like, we can't believe people are even wondering about this, because it was so easy. I mean, it was so easy to get up on the roof. And that.
So Brian thinks it was so easy to get on the roof. Now he's getting older. I think he's 40 years old, about to be 41. So, and Tyler Robinson is how old? Was he 22? 24? I can't remember how old he is, but how old is he, chat? Tell me.
Just kind of shows you that that it really was. So to get up there, it was so easy. He just walked down this public walkway, went over that little fence. To get down, this is the area over here where he jumped down, according to investigators, and then ran back into this little wooded area back here. Why he decided to jump down, really risk hurting himself, versus just coming easily the way that he did before. I don't know.
Well, it's like the opposite of the Nancy Guthrie case. They close it probably because they don't want interference. That's a charitable interpretation. Now, the cynical interpretation is no, they must have something to hide. But here's the thing. Not every time will it be the cynical interpretation's correct. I acknowledge sometimes it will be, but I don't think it'll be correct every time. So we'll see. Rooster, you're Spider-Man. 23. I got it in between. Julie Bug, welcome. How was your birthday yesterday, Julie Bug? I know you spent most of it with us. Hello there, Dana. 23, they said, Dana. 23.
That's kind of interesting. I guess I'm sure he was just freaking out and wanted to get away as quickly as possible, but he could have just come right back the way that he came and right down this really, really just like public walkway. Again, it's a unique layout up there on the roof, but in terms of the big issues right now with the court process, whether to delay the preliminary hearing and whether to boot cameras out. Hey guys, this message is sponsored by Raycon. I actually have their essential open earbuds and I love them. They just go around the top. I wanted to talk to a Utah defense attorney, and it's always good to get someone local who really understands the law, understands the key players about all of this. I'm joined now by Clayton Sims, a defense attorney in Utah. Clayton, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me again. I wanted to talk to you about the latest involving Tyler Robinson, obviously, which you've been following since the beginning like me. It's interesting that they're...
Well, Otani, it's funny you mentioned Candace. We're going to go over her next. I mean, has she ever specifically said it was them at this point? She might have by now, but in the beginning, she was kind of dancing around it. But she might have said that by now. I'm not sure. I actually haven't been paying as much attention to Candace, by the way. It's funny, though, because that's the reason why I started doing more lives. That the day after she met up with Erica Kirk, that was my most popular live at the time, was doing that. So I have some gratitude towards Candace for that. Although I didn't really like how Candace handled that. She didn't really grill Erica Kirk, but she changed her tune later. She went back on it later. Snoop says, Rooster, your personality makes you attractive regardless of what you look like. I don't care what they say about looks. You are an attractive fellow. Hello there, Aries. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, well, here's the other thing, Tim. HG Tudor, friend of the channel who I've also interviewed, he says that, not me, HG Tudor says Candace is a narcissist. And he also says Erica Kirk one is too, though. Just so you know.
Using so many of the same experts that were used in the Brian Kohberger trial, including this this man, Dr. Edelman, who has done this public opinion survey and is trying, it seems, to make the point that all of these articles and all of this attention on the case is a reason that they should ban cameras from the courtroom. What do you make of it, Clayton?
You know, that's a lot of evidence outside of the courtroom that you can't control. And you're never going to be able to control that. And the judge can't control what news media reports on and things outside of the courtroom. It wasn't effective in the Korber case. I don't know if it's going to be effective in the Tyler Robinson case.
Yeah, they were successful in moving the trial out of Moscow, Idaho with Kohberger to Boise, but they were not successful with getting the cameras thrown out. I mean, do you think there's a case here to move the trial?
I think that everyone in Utah knows about this case. This is not a small thing.
By the way, Shadow wants me to remind you all to like the video, please. Leave your DNA on the like button. Spank the like button too. These are all helping me to get Shadow the Night Owl's Hootie Snacks. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you're interested in talking about these kind of true crime overlapping with political things. The Mangione case, Luigi case, that would also apply under this umbrella. So let me know if you like it.
that happened in a small town that only they're impacted by it. I think the whole country is impacted by this shooting. And so I don't think the judge is going to move the trial. What normally happens is they just have a larger jury pool. Instead of calling in 100 people for the jury trial, you call in 2,000 people, then you interview them and see who can be impartial. I don't think that they're going to be effective in moving it out of Utah County. I don't.
One thing I don't understand that maybe you can help me sort of in the mind of a defense attorney is if they're saying that they want to stop the conspiracies and the misinformation, then wouldn't you want the cameras? Because then you can hear what is actually going on and what the real evidence is. Because even when I've covered the hearings and they say, okay, this part is closed and we all have to leave, you suddenly see on social media a frenzy of, oh my God, the conspiracies started again. Look, they're making the media leave. Like, why wouldn't the defense want the cameras to stay?
It could be a thought that the defense wants more conspiracy theories. They want that. They won't.
Ah, that's interesting, right? So the defense might want more conspiracy theories because it helps the case. So maybe the defense doesn't want the cameras there because that will add to the conspiratorial element, which helps Tyler Robinson. How about that? Playing chess? Do you think the defense is playing chess here? That's interesting.
Never admit that, but that could be a possibility. They want a jury to go rogue during the trial and maybe believe some conspiracy theory. You're absolutely right that if the cameras are not allowed in the courtroom, that's just going to fuel the conspiracy theories. The courtroom, presumably in the state of Utah, is filmed, is open to the public. So the presumption is that we have open courtrooms, that everything is out in the open and there's no secrets. Now, you can have a certain portion that's maybe a personal issue. There's certain rape cases in which certain evidence is not necessarily broadcast, but it's there in court. And that won't be the case in this particular trial. But yeah, I think that it should be filmed, and that would help enlighten the public as to what's.
Black Sheep, School of Pisces Fishes. Make sure you send some good vibes to Linda. She said she's had a sore throat and nothing's helped so far. So send her some good vibes. Shadow is sending you some good vibes too, by the way.
Going on.
Do you think it's possible that the defense hired this witness, this expert, to say how terrible all the reports are and how terrible the internet is, but they secretly actually like all of those things happening because, as you're saying, it just leads to more conspiracies, which in a sense is good for Tyler Robinson?
It is interesting that their motion repeated all of those statements, repeated all of the conspiracy theories, that their motion highlighted what they think is the negatives, but then they're repeating those negatives. They're repeating this prejudicial.
So here's the other thing, though, chat. If your answer before was one, you want cameras in the courtroom, does your opinion change if you think not having cameras in the courtroom will help Tyler Robinson get off and become innocent and be innocent? What do you think then? Because just for my own selfishness, I would want cameras in the courtroom just to know what's going on. But what if not having cameras in the courtroom actually helps Tyler Robinson walk? What do you think then? Does that change your opinion?
Evidence that's impacting their client. So it is interesting that they are repeating that. Maybe sometimes you want to ignore damaging evidence. You don't want to repeat it. You don't want it out there again and again and again. But their motion does essentially is the greatest hits of all of the damning evidence.
So you think that's on purpose?
Possibly. And they could have a secret purpose that they're not really revealing. They could say, we want to encourage conspiracy theories. We want speculation. We want things to, get out of control. We want confusion on the side of the prosecution. There are multiple theories out there, multiple alternative suspects. Some type of conspiracy theory would help them.
The evidence has not looked good for Tyler Robinson. His DNA was found on the gun. There's this letter that he now allegedly wrote.
What was that jump skip? Did you hear that?
the side of the prosecution. There are multiple theories out there, multiple alternative suspects. Some type of conspiracy theory would help them.
The evidence has not looked good for Tyler Robinson. You know, his DNA.
Did you see that? What do you think they cut from that? Because that was a pretty big jump cut there. Zarina, welcome. How are you? Make sure you like the video on the way in here. We're talking about Tyler Robinson and his case in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Aries says, before even talking about cameras, the prosecution needs to send the forensic evidence. I'm so mad everyone always talks about so much evidence when the defense hasn't even seen the gun and phone. A very fair point. If you're the defense in particular, right? Very fair point. That's all just the common stuff, right? But sometimes the prosecution tries to play some games and they'll try to withhold evidence. And if they're lucky, they'll say, well, we just discovered this now, so we couldn't give it to the defense earlier. That's what I've heard them say sometimes. But I don't think they're going to be able to say that in this case. But also, the cards could also be stacked against Tyler too. We'll see.
It was found on the gun. There's this letter that he now allegedly wrote to his lover, Lance Twiggs. Do you think the defense doesn't want all of that out in the open? Is that one of the reasons they may not want the cameras?
It's a possibility because people are forming their opinions now based on the evidence that's out there. And what's interesting is we now know of the handwritten letter. What if they file a motion to exclude that evidence and it's not presented to the...
And on a side note, how many things have happened since this happened? This happened in September, right? September is when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It seems like forever ago now, for one. And it seems like there's been 1,000 different stories that were all extremely popular since then, too. I mean, going to war with Iran, Nancy Guthrie disappearing, Nick Reiner killing his mom and dad. It's like, oh my God, there's been so many news stories since September that this has kind of gone on the back burner for some people, right? My Lord.
Jury. So all the evidence is being presented to the general public, but that may not be the same evidence that's presented to a jury. So they may want to keep that out of the public because it may not be presented to the jury. But if it's out there, it's in the atmosphere, and certainly the letter, a handwritten letter that's a confession, is very damaging because it also confirms the text.
One thing that always surprises me is they make such a big deal about tainted jury pools. And yes, I'm sure most people in Utah do know about the Charlie Kirk assassination, but like when I covered Lori Vallow, I mean, other big trials in Utah, and when I covered jury selection for that, and there were a lot of people that came in that had heard of Lori Vallow, but didn't really know much of the detail. And I would think that's probably the same with the Charlie Kirk assassination. I mean, they probably know it happened. They know the basics. They know that a local young guy was arrested from Utah, but like people aren't always following every little thing.
I think that's right, that they're exposed to it. They know a little bit about the case, the outline of the case, but they don't know the specifics. Sometimes people go, deep dive into the specifics, but the general public probably doesn't know a lot of the details that the defense attorneys are complaining about or mentioning, that people go on with their lives. They're worried about work. They're worried about taking their kids to school. They're worried about how they're going to pay, for gas prices. They're worried about other things. They're not necessarily obsessed with the details on the Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk case.
If you were Tyler Robinson's attorney, I mean, what do you see as the defense right now if this ends up at trial? Because again, the evidence is pretty clear in a lot of ways.
You could go lean into the conspiracy theories. You could say, look, it's too perfect. If you're going to set someone up, you're going to have a fake text, and you're going to have a fake letter, and you're going to have the gun, and you're going to have.
So Brian seems to think the evidence is pretty clear that Tyler Robinson's guilty, I guess, is what Brian Etton's saying. Now, we're going to get a different view, no doubt, when we go to Candace Owens next.
The writing, who writes, a message on the bullets. It's almost too perfect. And you should sort of lean into that as maybe it's a setup, maybe that.
B, what you're referring to is they were saying something about the bullet and how, I forget exactly what it was, but it was something that made people more suspicious. I'll have to look up exactly what it is.
There's an alternative suspect that we don't know about. There's other things that you could, argue, and you may not even necessarily argue that, but sort of imply it and let people sort of take off on their own.
With the president of the United States commenting on the case early on, the governor of Utah, a ton of other politicians, we got the guy, we got him, basically insinuating that he's guilty. How does that complicate things? And is there a way for the defense to use that in their favor?
Well, they could also, the defense could say, the FBI said they have their man. And congratulations, good law enforcement work. When Patel was referring to the original suspect, who turned out had nothing to do with it. So who claimed that he was the shooter. So we've already had a false accusation. We've already had someone who's falsely accused of being the shooter, was in fact taken into custody. We've forgotten about that detail, but there was someone else who was arrested on this case, and the FBI confirmed that he was the shooter, and it turned out not to be the case.
Yeah.
So when someone says, yeah, we have him, is that Kash Patel with the FBI? Is that the governor? Is that, the president of the United States? And what does that mean?
It's such a unique case when you think about it. I mean, when you think about the president commenting, and there probably isn't anything quite like it recently.
Right. And the president is commenting on it without seeing any evidence.
Right.
Has he seen the return of the, search warrant evidence? Has he talked to the investigators? Has he talked to the police who interviewed him? No, it's not necessarily based on any facts. And so it really doesn't have any power. The same with the governor. He made statements very, very early on and made really no reference to evidence.
Which way do you think the judge will go when it comes to the cameras long term, for the full duration?
Utah law favors open courtrooms. And so I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if he limited the cameras in the courtroom. He may redirect it to not focus on the defense attorneys, not focus on Tyler Robinson, focus on witnesses, focus on the judge. But I would be shocked if cameras were kicked out of the courtroom.
Yeah, and just from when I've been there, the sense I've gotten from him is he seems to understand that booting the cameras out is not a good look with a case like this, where there's already so many conspiracies and questions.
Right. I think it would get worse. I think that the coverage would get more speculative. There would be more conspiracy theories. I think that if you think that it would slow the momentum down, it would actually add fuel to the fire. It would accelerate conspiracy theories. It would accelerate the problems that the defense is complaining about.
Something else new that's come out recently is that Tyler Robinson's parents are on the prosecution witness list, which is something that I've always had a hard time wrapping my mind around, because I've seen them in court and they're emotional, especially his mom, and they're, looking at him, and there's like some communication there, and you can tell that, that's their son, and they're just torn up about this whole thing, and they're to support him. I mean, they're clearly there to support him, yet they are testifying for the prosecution, and this is a death penalty case.
That is wild that the prosecution got his own parents to be on the list to testify. That is ridiculous. That just seems fishy to me too.
How does that work?
Well, they could be forced to be witnesses.
No.
If they don't cooperate, they run the risk of being charged themselves with tampering with evidence, with obstruction of justice. And if they're subpoenaed, they have to be there. Now, they can still support their son, but also, too, they can be a powerful weapon for the defense, that they can say, spare my son, don't kill him, don't give him the death penalty. He's remorseful. He recognizes the error of his ways, if in fact he is convicted. So they can be witnesses for the prosecution in terms of the facts. Yes, I recognize that family gun. Yes, he was missing out of the house during that time period that would give him opportunity. But yet at the sentencing phase, they could ask for mercy. So they could be helpful to the prosecutor, but they could ultimately save their son's life through their testimony.
Makes sense.
Shadow, did you know that? That Julie has to watch out for your cousins so they don't swoop up and take her fur babies. Shadow is shocked and appalled.
So if they're honest and do the right thing during the trial, maybe the jurors would be sympathetic with that. Gosh, what these people have gone through. They're such nice people, and now here they are having to testify against their son. And then if there is a death penalty phase, as a juror, you would feel sorry for them,
right,
and maybe spare their son's life.
Right. And you would not do it for him, but you would do it for them. You would do it for the parents' sake. How painful is that to have their son on death row and then ultimately executed? We could prevent that. And certainly if the alternative is, which it is life without the possibility of parole, he will never be released if he's convicted. And so that's something that they can do for the parents. Now that's not necessarily the law. That's not following the law, but that's the way things work in the real world, that a jury could have sympathy and feel bad for the parents and not execute their son because of that.
And I guess if the prosecution wants to question them, there's nothing they can really do about that, right?
Right. They can't really remain silent. They can't invoke their Fifth Amendment right to remain silent because they're not accused of a crime. They're not a part of it. And certainly, even if they did try to do that, the state would give them immunity and say, hey, you're not going to be prosecuted. You didn't have any interaction, or you're not responsible for the crime. So we're going to force you to testify. We're going to give you an immunity.
And that's a part of it too. They might be forced to testify. But again, depending on what the penalties are, you would think that when it comes to your son, you would take whatever penalty it is to not incriminate your son, you would think. And I'd be curious how much Tyler even did incriminate himself to his parents, That's another thing to think about. But also, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Spank the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I usually talk about true crime and current events. This falls under the umbrella of both. And I use my experience with mental health, addiction, narcissistic abuse, and narcissistic family systems to give my unique insight on those things. Say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat here. We got a great lively bunch. Eccentric, encouraging, supportive. Some school of Pisces fish in the chat here too. So if you're lurking, make sure you say hello. And thank you very much for all the support I've gotten so far. And again, super chats, super stickers, and becoming a channel member or gifting channel memberships, great way to support the channel. It helps me to pay for Shadow the Night Owl Here's Hootie Snacks.
Immunity letter, and we're going to force you to testify. So they would be forced to testify. Absolutely.
If they are prosecution witnesses, can they meet behind the scenes with their son's defense attorneys and say, what's the best way for me to do this to help my son?
They're free to meet with the defense attorneys. They're free to meet with the prosecutors, but they are actually under no obligation to help the prosecution side or the defense side. A subpoena is an order to appear in court and testify in front of the judge. If they refuse to talk to the prosecutor, that's okay. If they don't talk to the defense side, that's okay as well. They can help the defense if they want to, but they don't have to. The only thing they have to do is show up to court and testify at that moment.
And also, Tyler Robinson's boyfriend, Lance Twiggs, is a prosecution witness also, which would make sense because there were all these text messages and Tyler allegedly wrote this letter to Lance. But there's also been a lot of questions behind the scenes about like how involved Lance may be. How is it possible that someone that close to Tyler had no idea that this was being planned or that Tyler was thinking about doing this. Does someone like Lance Twiggs does he become vulnerable to charges in a situation like this once he gets on the stand?
Well, I would say no, because the prosecution needs him. They don't want to scare him into pleading the fifth, into remaining silent. So they may give him immunity. That's a possibility. But
Now imagine that. Now, wouldn't that be something if that guy pleads the fifth, Lance? And I'm assuming that's Tyler Robinson's partner, right? Wouldn't that blow up the whole thing?
There's an implicit threat. Hey, you're on our side. We're not going to prosecute you. But you wonder why Tyler Robinson thought that this would impress Twiggs. So there had to be some discussion, had to be some motivation there. I'm not saying that Twiggs wanted this to happen, but Tyler Robinson had to think that Twiggs would have been pleased with that outcome. And so that's where the tension is. That's where that's the motivation for this whole matter, is to please someone else. Well, what did that person say that made you believe that? Now, we won't necessarily know Tyler Robinson's side unless he takes the witness stand, which is, unlikely, but it's possible for sure. So we only get some insight from Twiggs.
What do you think of the defense so far? I mean, you've read the filings of the job they're doing.
No, I think that they're doing a great job. I think that the materials that they have and the ingredients that they have to cook with. It's a difficult case. Certainly with the high profile nature of the case, the focus on that, how popular Charlie Kirk was in Utah County, specifically, that's difficult. But I think that they're doing a great job bringing up the issues that they need to bring up. And really also too, they're trying to slow down the process. You see that they're filing motion after motion to try to slow down the state's momentum. And I think that they're doing a good job in that.
And that seems pretty typical with other big cases that I've covered. But do you think another motivation to slow things down in this case for them could be to let these conspiracies keep breeding?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And also too, you think that this case may go to trial 4 or 5 years from now, when Donald Trump's not in office, when Governor Cox, his term would be over. And so you wonder if you'd be in a better situation with a different sort of political climate.
Do you think does the defense just love people like Candace Owens?
I don't know if they even are familiar with what
what I mean? Because her whole
Brian Etton's dropping the Candace Owens reference. I wasn't expecting that. That wasn't on my bingo card.
Her whole thing is that it's not Tyler Robinson. I mean, that's like what she talks about on her podcast every day, and she's really popular. So I'm just thinking I guess all of that is good for them.
It creates alternative version of if you believe in what Candace Owens is saying, you end up in a not guilty verdict, and that ultimately helps the defense. So do they like her? No, but she's not against them in a sense. She doesn't think that their client is guilty. So in that sense, it is helpful.
Are all of these conspiracy theories helpful to creating reasonable doubt?
I think so. Because you say, look, there's evidence, but there's still some doubt. There's an alternative suspect. There's an alternative theory that creates some doubt. And the lack of confidence in that Tyler Robinson is the shooter, then you end up with a not guilty verdict. So the conspiracy theories do help the defense. Candace Owens helps the defense because if they're putting these theories out in the atmosphere. So just as the prosecutor's putting theories out that Tyler Robinson has committed this offense, other people are saying, no, he didn't do it. And here's why.
It's interesting to think about. It's interesting to think about them paying all of these experts, but it's really these people they're not even paying that are in a way doing the work for them.
Right. They maybe call Candace Owens, put her on the witness list as an expert.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be crazy.
Wouldn't that be something if they put Candace Owens on the witness list for the defense? That would turn this thing into a circus if it wasn't already.
One other thing I thought of, with the governor making clear early on that they were going to go after the death penalty, is there any chance that there could be a deal here and we wouldn't see a trial, or is there almost guaranteed because from the beginning we've heard like we're Utah and we're going after the death penalty?
I think that there could be a possibility that he doesn't get the death penalty, and the person in control is Erica Kirk. If Erica Kirk says, "Look, I forgive you. I'm a Christian and I believe in forgiveness. I'm moving on. I don't think that this is beneficial to my husband's legacy, and there's no benefit to executing you." If she has that position, then the prosecution really has to think about life without the possibility of parole and not giving him the death penalty. So if Erica Kirk steps forward and says, "I'm not in support of the death penalty," and realize this is a long process, that the trial could take up to 4 years from today, then appeals, years and years. So we're, many, many years. Other death row inmates in the state of Utah, most of them die before they're executed. They die of old age. And so if Erica Kirk steps forward and says, "I don't want the death penalty in a particular case," I think the prosecution would honor her wishes and give him a plea bargain.
It is interesting that she hasn't been at any of the hearings. I mean, she's obviously made a lot of public appearances since Charlie was assassinated, but she hasn't, and she said that she didn't want to get involved with whether or not he should get death, but she hasn't really been outspoken when it comes to this part of what happened.
Right. She's free to attend every hearing in person. And we don't know if she's live streaming, if she's.
What do you all think about Erica Kirk not going to these hearings? What do you think about that? Do you think she should be there? Do you think, oh no, she's too busy running Turning Point now? But what do you think? Should she be at these hearings or no? Press 1 if she should be. 2 if you don't really care.
Looking at what's happening in court, she may be, but certainly at a significant hearing like the preliminary hearing, I would anticipate that she would be there, but it's not a requirement.
I always appreciate Clayton for taking the time to talk to me. I'll keep you guys posted on the judge's rulings on all of this. And I appreciate you guys for watching, appreciate you guys for subscribing. I'll make sure to stay on top of the Tyler Robinson developments. Again, I plan to go to the hearings, plan to go to the trial if there is a trial. I know there's a lot of noise out there with this case. I just want to cover the facts for you guys, let you guys know what's happening in court, and I'll keep you guys posted. All right, talk to you guys later.
All right, make sure you check out Brian Etton if you haven't already. Most of you already have. So now, Gary, Melton, Candace Owens. Candace, Zach Costello versus Gary. Which one to go to first? I guess that's the big one, right? Charlie Kirk ballistics. How about that? No.
Well,
not that. This one.
And I think feces and facetious
Works.
We're live.
All right, guys, we're live. Welcome to the show tonight, Ben Dyke Show. I got special guest Gary from Paramount Tactical. We've got something up here that Gary has posted on his X account. I'm going to make sure that we put Gary's information there in the stream, in the chat. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns during the show for Gary and you want to make sure that you get those in, make sure you put it with us.
So this is Paramount Tactical. This guy's name is Gary Melton. They're going to be going over some of the ballistics here about the bullets, etc. And I think they're going to say that Candace is wrong, but let's see.
Super chat members, I always try to get those comments first. But Gary, first and foremost, a little bit of your background. We were talking a little bit before the show. You're Army veteran, Green Beret, now have a business teaching shooting, teaching combat, teaching self-defense. So, and I said, how did you fall into being a punching bag for the conspiratards? Because it seems like that's what you do on a daily basis, is deliver counter punches to the conspiracies.
And that's right, Laura. Shadow needs his like vest thrown to him. So remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for reminding me, Laura. Send a like vest. So this guy, Gary, apparently he's the opponent to the conspiracies. So, but here on this channel, I'm going to expose you to both the conspiracies and the anti-conspiracies.
And I don't know how. I used to box, so that's the way I look at things.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's take a step back and how I got into this, right? So
Sure.
First of all, I've had a YouTube channel for many years, and which was primarily firearms, but I always talked politics. And every Wednesday, just about every Wednesday for years and years, we'd always do a live stream and talk about guns, gear, politics, current events, all those things. And I've always been a diehard conservative, kind of bordering. I like to say bordering on libertarian, but then libertarian.
And here's the thing, though. I mean, facts can be facts regardless of someone who's being paid. If Tucker Carlson's being paid from Qatar, does that change your opinion of him? Again, it can change some things, but maybe not all things. Does it change someone else's opinion if Israel's paying them? For some things, but maybe not all things. It really just depends. Depends on the exact topic at hand.
Some libertarians are out there, so I don't know if I want to associate myself. But then again, there's some conservatives I don't want to associate myself with, and I don't think they align with my beliefs. With that being said, that's how that worked. And so, I had this YouTube channel, gun tubing, and really the first time that I dipped my toe into like current events similar to the Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk, assassination was Butler. So Butler was interesting because, number one, we had it was the attempted assassination with Thomas Crooks. And the other part of that is when I got out of the military, I took a job with Department of State Diplomatic Security as a special tactics instructor. So I was teaching tactics, room clearing, defensive tactics, other security, close protection, PSD work, all of those things. And one of the guys that worked, and later on I became a unit chief for a training program. And one of the guys that worked for me used to be a former Secret Service sniper. And so I remember we were on the range. We were actually teaching a course the day. And by the way, I went full-time and on Paramount since 2023. And I remember, we were actually on the range the day that the attempted assassination. And on the way home, a client called me and said, Gary, you should cover this. So I came home. I immediately started a live stream. We're trying to figure out what's going on. You know how everything is the first couple minutes, hours, even a couple days during those events. And so, there was a lot of people pointing out already online, a lot of discrepancies.
If you're talking about the sleuth intrigue with the guy who said he was the brother or stepbrother or something, that one, the phone call, you got to tell me what's different. What is it?
And, it just made sense. I reached out to my friend that was a former Secret Service counter sniper team member. And I was like, hey, man, I'd love to get you in here and let's just do an interview and talk about what happened, what should have happened, what you would expect. And there again, 80% of the details that we kind of know now, we didn't know then, at least. And so I brought him in I brought him in, we sat down, and he's still doing some other work. And so he didn't want to be on camera. So, I just started going through and outlining, what happened, what should have happened. And we did an interview, and he talked about one of the big things that he talked about that I think is really important.
Okay, yeah. The guy, Richard, that's the guy who said his brother took Nancy. Yeah, we did go over that phone call. I guess if you want to call that an interview, you can. But we did go over that. And honestly, that guy, I thought it could be something. But where he lost me is where he said, 80% of Nancy Guthrie's body could be in the backpack. It's like, what? Like, that part just seems ridiculous to me.
Important for people to understand, if going back to Butler, was the security detail Trump had and the security detail Trump should have had. And, him being a former president and being as a controversial of a figure as Donald Trump was, what he said was, the security assessment should have dictated that he had essentially a full presidential detail. And we know he never had that. They even beefed up his detail after the assassination attempt, but it still wasn't quite what it should be. And Butler was actually the first time that he had a counter sniper team coverage. Now, one of the things that my friend laid out was like, hey, look, when you have a counter sniper team, the other thing that goes hand in hand with it is a counter sniper reaction team. And what those guys are guys on the ground. And basically the counter snipers have direct comms with these guys, and like they see something weird. And the counter sniper reaction team is also usually tied at the hip with local law enforcement so that they can identify things and talk directly. So long story short, one of the big things that we identified right away was he didn't have the security coverage. And I had my own conspiracy theories with all this, but one of the things I think we can confirm as far as a legitimate, proven conspiracy theory is the fact.
All right. Michelle, thank you very much for the super chat, Michelle. Food for Shadow. Shadow is the night owl of the channel here, my spirit animal and mascot. Super chats help him to get some more Hootie snacks. So thank you very much for that, Michelle. You are great. Hootie hoo, as Rooster would say as well. Everyone else, remember, likes are free. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Send Shadow a like vest. I like that one that Laura came up with. Spank the like button as well. Leave your DNA in the like button. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat too. No, not yet, Lori. Amy Hilliard. The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've gone over anything about them yet or her yet.
Fact that there was at least a conspiracy by the Biden administration not to provide Trump the security assets that he should have had. And I think combined with the rhetoric that the Democrats were using at the time, I think at a minimum, they were at least hoping that somebody would, they provided the opportunity. It was kind of a let it happen operation that was going on continuously. And I do think that they were essentially hoping. Now, if there was more coordination than that, I don't know. We don't know. There's obviously a lot of interesting and a lot of facts that we still don't know about Thomas Crux. So anyways, I played in that game for a little bit, and I actually went out to Butler. I did the same thing that I did with.
Also, and thank you very much for gifting the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect membership. That gives someone access to the members-only live streams. I think the next one's going to be tomorrow or Thursday, whichever one is better for more people. So thank you very much, Anne, for that. And everyone, whoever gets that, should thank Anne. So thank you again, Al. Shadow thanks you as well. More Hootie snacks for him.
The Tyler Robinson and the Charlie Kirk UVU case, and that is I actually went to Butler. I got a 3D drone survey because one of the first things that I noticed in that case is people were coming up with all kinds of crazy conspiracies. And I think if you're going to get to the truth, the first thing that you got to do is kind of weed out what isn't true, right? And so I found that going out there and getting a 3D drone survey that ultimately allowed me to create a 3D model would allow us to test all these different trajectories. Because I don't know if you remember at the time or if you were paying attention, Ben, but they were saying there was people in these certain trees that they inside buildings, and they were shooting through unbroken windows. And so what that survey allowed me to do, and that 3D model allowed me to do, was actually kind of test trajectories. That drone survey was like, the accuracy is like plus or minus an inch. And so you can actually put yourself in the shooter's position. You can see the line of sight, or if there is one, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of that. So I played that whole game for a little bit, and even then, all the conspiracies were just quite bonkers to me. It just didn't make sense. I mean, like some of those were just physically impossible given the trajectories. There was no line of sight. There was not even a parabolic arc that would allow a shooter, even if they were going to do some sort of crazy indirect fire from a tree over a building and into Trump's ear. And then on top of that, the trajectories that people were proposing didn't line up with the known trajectories of people hit in the direction of fire. I also interviewed multiple eyewitnesses for that. And tried to get as much information and give it to the public as I possibly could. And then so Charlie Kirk, again, I was big into conservative politics, been a big fan of Charlie Kirk for a really long time, followed his career closely. Probably him and Tucker Carlson were the people that I regularly, listen to their podcasts, listen to their content, and followed them quite closely. So when Charlie Kirk was killed, it felt personal to me. And again, immediately we started seeing all these crazy conspiracies. And again, if you go back in time, you think about, there was the palm gun, there was camera gun. There was the camera gun that Andrew Faraci is holding. There was another camera gun on the other side that allegedly somebody was holding. And then people said the camera behind Charlie was a camera gun. And then we also had people saying, the Bush shooter, tunnels underneath. And then we got to the exploding mic theory. Flying drones was a big one for a long time, that he was actually killed with a flying drone.
You've been in combat. You've been deployed in combat.
Yeah.
I did one little tour, and I was with the Brits, so we had beer. But I never saw a camera gun. I mean, I've been to the James Bond Museum in London, and I did see some camera guns there.
Yeah.
I also saw a submarine car, but I've never experienced a camera gun anywhere in my life, like yet.
Yeah, me neither, man.
What is the most crazy version that you've heard? I thought the exploding mic, and I've got one of those Rode microphones.
Yeah.
I've not been brave enough to use it since all this stuff come out, right?
I think the thing though is, since people have learned that some conspiracies are true, it doesn't mean everything's a conspiracy though too. Like, it's not black or white. Once one thing's a conspiracy, everything is. A lot of people do think that though. And I just don't think it goes that far. Some are, but not all. But people struggle with that.
To DJI, I was like, Rode's going to take me out. What are your thoughts? What's the craziest one you've heard?
I think it's a toss up between the palm gun, because we see Rick Cutler clearly on video. There's clearly no recoil. There's clearly not even a muzzle protruding from his fingers. If you guys look at palm guns, they're actually pretty large. They're larger than you expect them to be. And then we also never saw any muzzle flash or anything like that. So between that and the mic, the exploding mic theory, I think the exploding mic theory is just idiotic. I mean, you have to believe that they are able to defy Newtonian physics for that to work. So those are the two dumbest ones, in my opinion.
Well, it's the Jews. The Jews. I mean, they can do anything, right? I mean, biblically, I support Israel.
Sure.
But I never gave as much thought to Israel until all of this stuff come out. I put a poll in the chat to start the show. Who's responsible for Charlie Kirk's death? 65% say Tyler Robinson, 27% Israel, 5% is like a little unnoticed, what I would say, cult.
So here's the thing, though. I'm going to take a page out of Andrew Wilson's book. Like, every claim that's made There needs to be evidence and then supporting evidence for me to believe it.
Mormons, and then 3% is Egyptians. So I don't know, man. I'm just so down, and I feel like sometimes I'm arguing with people like I'm defending common sense, which
I'm with you.
it seems odd. Now you jumped into this and you're in the middle of this. You said,
now, the reason why people think that Israel would want him dead is because he said he was going to leave the Israel cause. But even so, like, I just think that would be such a stupid move for them to do. Like, at the time when there was so much, and probably still is, a lot of negative sentiment against Israel, you're going to actually be behind the assassination of one of your, like, the people that supported you most up until then. To me, it would just be such a stupid chess move for them to do.
tomorrow you're going on with the seed man. Is that right? Alex Jones?
Yeah.
I call him the seed man for 25. Back whenever he used to sell seeds, before Sandy Hook, whenever he got castrated by the Sandy Hook, he's a eunuch now. And I've called him the seed man for a long time. You're going on to the seed man show with another Green Beret. I hope you both wear your hats to talk about this. And the other guy's ballistics expert, all this other stuff as well. And can I bring up this?
I would actually challenge that. I would actually challenge that statement, and we can talk about that in a moment.
I am a big fond of feces. I've got horses, and we use it for fertilizer. And I think feces and facetious is, all in the same. Let me pull up this X post. I saw this X post. You pointed it out to me, and I've been sitting here reading it. And like I said, I'm a dub submarine guy. I was under the water for a long time, maybe too long, and that might be what's wrong with me. But I want to, if you don't mind, and Micro Wolf says a camera gun's a spy tool. They do exist. That's my conspiracy voice. There you go. So,
and look, I don't doubt that there are camera guns. We'll just say that, right? I don't doubt that there are surreptitious firearms, to say the least. What I'm saying is that we have so much clear footage of what took place that there's some things that you can just reasonably rule out. And the camera guns, given that there's footage of the camera, there's no sort of muzzle flash, there's no sort of indicated recoil. And then on top of that, when you start looking at the energy that was dumped onto Charlie, things like the camera gun just fall apart, as well as things like the palm gun. But go ahead.
What about his own people, his own Turning Point people, his own wife, his own business partners? How did we get there? How did we get to that point? Because
we got there via Candace Owens. So I think Candace has, here's the thing, even to this day, she says that Tyler Robinson was potentially involved, even though she continues to say that he never was on campus. So why has there never been a deeper investigation into Tyler Robinson? The other thing that we know that there were people that predicted Charlie Kirk's death online days prior to. And these all go back to trans Tifa types. So, trans activists, whatever you want to call them. Right, and then we go into, the Salt Lake City, I don't know, it's like the Gay Gun Club, and then also the John Brown Gun Club.
Is that a real thing, though? Were there trans people that were predicting his death? If so, I haven't seen it, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
There are definitely ties into all of that. But again, she's never went there. And the only thing that I can reasonably conclude is that it's because that she doesn't want to take it there. I think you get into a dead end there. So therefore you can't have, 80 something episodes on Charlie Kirk's death if you continue to go down that route. But then on top of that, the other thing that you don't get to do is to be a vicious, malicious bitch and go after people that she wants to go after. And look, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't care. Like, I have zero interest in a particular narrative or anything. And I went into this completely open to the idea that, you know, the government was involved or whatever else. I still think the government was all involved in Thomas Crooks in one way or
Oh,
another.
I agree.
Definitely complicit in some way, and that was the Biden administration, right? And I think they could have known, like, there's a whole lot of different paths that you can take there. Like, one of the things that I've talked about a lot on my channel is the fact that it is actually very easy to target people, psychologically profile people en masse online. And then you find the type of psychological profile that you need, that you know is extremely persuasive and suggestible. And then they can take that, they can plug a formula in and work these people to where they are radicalizing them, weaponizing them, and then directing them at a target. I think that is very potentially what happened to Thomas Crooks. And I think that the government could have been involved. The other option is those types of things are definitely happening, and they may have known, the Biden administration and our own intelligence community may have known that he was planning this operation and, you know, let it happen. The other option is, you know, there was people within the deep state that actually provided material support and helped plan it.
How about this? Southern Poverty Law Center says harmful trans shooter myth widely promoted after Charlie Kirk killing. What does that mean? In the immediate wake of Charlie Kirk's killing on September 10th, right-wing influencers and outlets promoted disinformation about trans people and the alleged perpetrator's gender identity. Now, granted, Southern Poverty Law Center is not the most trustworthy either, in my opinion. But they said, as the Southern Poverty Law Center has previously reported, this follows a trend whereby far-right propagandists use high-profile incidents of gun violence to push the myth of a trans shooter phenomenon. So it's not exactly what he's doing, but it's similar. Despite lacking legitimate data, they construct false narratives claiming that trans people are inherently violent and that LGBTQ affirmation is a form of indoctrination into a violent cult. This narrative presumes or pressures policymakers to suppress trans people and their rights under the guise of public safety. This myth of a trans shooter reemerged following the killing of Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. Before the arrest of the alleged attacker, Tyler Robinson, right-wing influencers and news outlets promoted unverified reports that attempted to tie the then unidentified suspect to a transgender ideology. So that's kind of what he's saying, right? He's saying that in these trans communities, they were predicting the death. Let's see if they mention it. On the morning of September 11th, Steven Crowder, a conservative live streamer and influencer, posted a photo of what he alleged to be an internal bulletin from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The document alleged that cartridges found at the scene included expressions of transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Crowder first shared a photo of the full report on X, saying he received it from an officer at ATF. How likely do you think that's true? Did Steven Crowder receive this from an officer at the ATF? Later that day, the Wall Street Journal published an article quoting what appeared to be the same internal report from the ATF. Interesting. However, after other outlets, including the New York Times, published articles citing law enforcement officials cautioning the public against drawing conclusions from the leaked report, the Journal updated its reporting on September 12th. In an editor's note, the paper explained that the Department of Justice officials had since urged caution about the bulletin, saying it may not accurately reflect the messages on the ammunition. Crowder's tweet remains online. Among the messages that Robinson allegedly carved into the bullets were the phrases, "Notices bulge, OWO, what's this?" What the hell does that even mean? "And if you read this, you are gay, laugh my ass off." The former is a meme popular in some internet subcultures. "The effing messages are mostly a big meme," Robinson allegedly told his roommate and romantic partner in a text message, according to a federal indictment filed against him on September 16th. Other right-wing influencers seized on Crowder's post in the Wall Street Journal's initial reporting to promote anti-trans rhetoric. InfoWarm's founder and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones followed Crowder and the Journal with a September 11th X post that cited without evidence, "What we do now is that a hyper-violent trans rage. What we do know is that a hyper-violent trans rage movement has been carrying out mass murders and other killings across the United States." So isn't this interesting, right? So the theories are being mixed up here. This is not Israel. This is just one against trans people. The ATF/DHS has now reported that Charlie Kirk's assassin left the rifle and shell casings it used at the scene, and that anti-fascist, pro-trans messages were carved into the implements of death. Anti-trans rhetoric experienced an uptick once again after Axios and other outlets reported over the weekend following Kirk's death that Robinson's roommate identified as transgender. The roommate has cooperated with authorities in their investigation, according to news reports. That hasn't stopped the hard right from promoting the trans shooter myth and amplifying calls to eliminate gender-affirming healthcare. LGBTQ violent extremism is an epidemic, Shaya Rayachik, who posts under the username Libs of TikTok, wrote on X on September 13th. They reposted an Axios article about the potential motive with the comment, vilifying LGBTQ people. They have millions of followers on X and TikTok and is one of the political right's most influential anti-transgender activists online. Can't wait to see the quote-unquote demon assassins trans furry friends start getting arrested one by one, Philip Buchanan, a far-right internet personality known as Cat Turd, wrote on X on September 15th. Buchanan has amassed 4 million followers on X because of years of online commentary and extensive posting of deliberately provocative comments on hard-right X accounts and sites like Breitbart. Laura Loomer, a former U.S. House candidate who has described herself as pro-white nationalism and a proud Islamophobe, has been a leading figure pushing hard-right conspiracy theories and online hate for years. Now, wouldn't you know, Laura Loomer, she would be the first one to try to combat the Israeli theories, wouldn't she? Of course she would. She was prolific in her social media posts about the Kirk shooting, blaming transgender people and calling for fascist-style imprisonment and criminalization. On X in the days after the attack, she posted, "It's time to designate the transgender movement as a terrorist movement." Trans people are a threat to society. We can't allow them to continue killing people. They need to be socially ostracized, and the president should make medical transitioning illegal in our country. It's time. Loomer's comments were followed by another narrative leader in the hard right, Matt Walsh. Notice how they call it the hard right. A self-described theocratic fascist who hosts a talk show on the Daily Wire website, Walsh has regularly promoted racist and anti-trans conspiracy theories. He took to X to post the assertion that trans activists knew about the shooting before it happened, calling it LGBT terrorism. So this is what the guy's talking about. On the anti-LGBTQ and hate group Family Research Council, FRC's radio show on September 15th, host Jody Hicks said Kirk's suspected killer lived with a romantic partner who was undergoing so-called gender transition. What are the chances that this could be unrelated detail, or is there probably something to the trans ideology that makes people more susceptible to extreme actions? Now, on a side note, Laura Loomer is quite something else with some of this. She's a very pro-Zionist person. I think you could make an argument that the far-right Israeli government, Zionists, way more dangerous than any trans folks out there. I don't know what you think about that, but I would say so. Look at the numbers. I said, insane. All right, let's see what else they have to say.
So, going into the Charlie Kirk, I'm open to all this. I don't care. I didn't know really about TPUSA other than that it was Charlie Kirk's company and 501c3. I knew who his wife was, and I've seen her on video. Barely knew who Andrew Colvett and some of these other key players and Blake Neff were at the time. Couldn't care less. And if you showed me the evidence and said, and still to this day, you showed me the evidence that says, these people are involved, I'm with it. But what we do have is we have just a copious amounts of evidence. And after I went to UVU, I looked at, I retraced Tyler Robinson's steps. I talked to 4 people at the time that were eyewitnesses there while I was there. I've since talked to like 6 or 7 more. I think I have had like a total of 5 or 6 on the channel. You guys can go watch.
I've seen some of those. Yeah.
Some of those interviews. I've talked to Andrew Colvett. I've talked to Brian Harpole. I've talked to a couple of the other guys in the security team. And going into it completely objective, just asking questions, going to the location.
What interesting timing. So the Southern Poverty Law Center indicted on federal fraud charges April 21st, today, 8:46 p.m. Eastern. The Southern Poverty Law Center was indicted Tuesday on federal fraud charges alleging it improperly raised millions of dollars to secretly pay leaders of the Ku Klux Klan and other hate groups for inside information, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said. The Justice Department alleges the civil rights group defrauded donors by using their money to fund the very extremism it claimed to be fighting. So, with more than $3 million paid to informants through a now defunct program to infiltrate white supremacists and other extremist groups, prosecutors allege some of the money was used by extremists to carry out other crimes. The court papers did not include specific examples. The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred, Blanche said. The civil rights group faces charges of wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering in the case brought in the federal court in Alabama, where the organization is based. The indictment came shortly after the SPLC revealed the existence of a criminal investigation into its disbanded informant program to gather intelligence on extremist group activities. The group said the program was used to monitor threats of violence, and the information was often shared with local and federal law enforcement. Interesting. Interesting. So paying them to get insider information and then not knowing where the money's going. Interesting.
And then, when they released the charging documents, it's like, we know this evidence exists, and there's nothing that's stronger or more compelling.
So, Tim, it says what they did was they paid the leaders of the KKK for inside information about how their groups operated. Now, what those people did with the money, I don't know. So, I feel like they were paying for information. But again, how does that look, right? That looks more like, does it look more like a bribe? Does it look more like fraud, like they just claimed it to be? I don't know. So again, though, like, people do pay for information out there, but where's the line? Where is it illegal? I guess in their case, the problem for them is if it's a publicly funded group or maybe funded by grants, you're now using the public's money or grant money to do those bribes. And now you're going to get yourself in trouble, right? Interesting. Did they say KKK? Nope. The very same ones you're thinking of, Rooster, the ones that you wouldn't think would make sense for them to do. I think for the Southern Poverty Law Center to do that, miscalculated. They miscalculated the optics of how that would look to the public, right? Because now look at them. They're getting indicted on fraud charges. Yeah, and that's probably also what it is, Tim. but it's also the language, right? Like, that's probably not what they were thinking. Like, oh, we're funding them. No, they're thinking of it as we're paying for information. But the law would say, no, you are actually funding them. So tisk, 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 Southern Poverty Law Center, which again, as I said in the beginning of that, they're not my favorite either.
Than what we have here. And it's quite frankly, in my mind at this point, it's fairly open and shut. Now, again, tomorrow new evidence comes out. I'm going where the evidence is.
Do you want to talk about your post here? Because the hot item is this. I hate to use the JFK movie. We've got the magic bullet, but this is huge. You and I were talking before the show about this lady that works for the Daily Mail, Melissa Koenig, very anti-Trump, very, what I would say, socialist. She's promoting Zohran Mamdani on the Daily Mail. She started working there in 2021. It's just anti-Trump stuff. Her name is Melissa Koenig here. She's got a lot of followers on X, 448. And some of the stuff that she's posting.
By the way, Shadow wants me to remind you all to like the video. Send Shadow a like vest. Spank the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat and the school of Pisces fish. And again, I go live most nights a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about true crime and current events. This is a mixture of the two. Tyler Robinson plus Charlie Kirk. True crime plus current events.
Here, she's sad that she can't drink Coke because they came out with a bottle named with Trump on there. But your breakdown on this ballistics, let's, rather than disregard the Daily Mail, because if you're getting news from the Daily Mail, you're saving a birdcage somewhere from having something to shit on. What are your thoughts? I mean, you laid this.
Here's the thing, though. This is probably how it went down in the SPLC's headquarters. They were like, oh, how do we get more information to justify our funding? Oh, we got to get inside information. And that means we have to pay them. Then that's what we do. So that's probably what they were thinking. Misguided for sure. And now, especially since it's out, now they've broken all these rules in the process if they've been indicted, right? So it goes to show you, you got to see things from all the angles. And it doesn't seem like they took a step back on this one. It says, oh yeah, how would it look to the outside world if we're giving money to the KKK leaders for information? How does that look? Makes you look terrible.
It's out here. And I would say, with your background, you know more about shooting ballistics than the average bear. And obviously with your job and all this other stuff. Go into that. This is interesting as hell.
I'll hit that, and then let's just talk about my experience in this. And so, number one, I was a sniper with the 101st with the initial push into Iraq. So I've been shooting long range, precision, operationally, professionally since 2003, 2004.
Okay.
And again, when I was at the 101st, I later went to special operations, like long range. I love pistol shooting. We teach tactical carbine. Tactical medicine, but long range
is 2 hours long. They're not getting to it here. Where is the stuff about the actual bullet?
Chats and other, and you got to understand, like, just what you just would know to be their social circles, right? And for people that haven't seen it, what was the videos? I'll try to think of the videos. A friend of theirs, Turkey Tom. If you haven't watched the Turkey Tom videos, you need to go watch.
I'm losing my patience with these guys because they're not they're doing their Jen Koffendorfer routine. Ugh. Danielle said she's out shopping. Watching out for coyotes. I like coyotes. Time to talk to Candace then. Candace will stay on point. Candace.
All right, you guys, happy Monday. A super happy Monday, actually, because I'm out of my
Look at that tone. The tone immediately captures your attention, doesn't it?
boot. Finally, I'm free. And of course, we go off air on Friday, and then Trump begins tweeting me again from Air Force One this time. I honestly am not quite sure what triggered his little meltdown, but apparently he says, I am dying fast. So I got to get my affairs in order. 2 tweets from the leader of the free world about how I am a nobody. I think that's 4 tweets in total. I feel like maybe the opposite might be true. But first, we have exclusive audio of Tyler Robinson's grandfather, the original owner of the rifle that was found after Charlie Kirk was killed, the one that the bomb dogs couldn't detect because their noses malfunctioned that day. The one that the feds led the police officers to, the rookie police officers to, after the dogs had already searched that particular area. Wouldn't it be kind of interesting to hear what Grandpa thinks?
Because here's the thing about Candace, right? Now, Candace is certainly not always wrong. I think I went over her last week too, and she rebutted what Trump said about her, and to which all those things I think I agreed with for the very most part. So, but I'm one of those people that Candace's personality, something about her, the person, can annoy me sometimes, but that doesn't always mean she's wrong. But I do think there are other times where she is wrong. So it really just depends to me. Depends on the topic.
Think Tyler Robinson is guilty? Do you think Tyler Robinson is guilty? Let's find out. Welcome back to Candace.
Did you know Candace has a lot of Democrats watching her too, by the way? Did you know that? If you actually look at the demographics of her, there's all sorts of progressive women that watch her. You wouldn't think so, right? But there is. So that makes you think, what are they watching for? I think they watch for the entertainment, and there's some overlap, right? A lot of progressive women. They are certainly not pro-Israel. They're pro-Palestine. So that's one area of agreement. And also, it gives them a little bit of it's kind of like current events, gossip, and drama. She gives you a little bit of that too. So it's working pretty good for her. There he is, Farmer. Gary Farmer? What's his first name? I can't remember. George Farmer, of course.
So I am sure that...
And Aries, I would agree with Candace on that. I do think the left and the right are 2 wings of the same bird. I do agree with that part. It just depends, you know. I think some of this would require a very deep dive. That's right. Not George. I said George, not Jorge, Nini.
To all of you guys saw my rant on Friday. It was on Instagram.
But you'll never catch me on one side or the other. I can listen to everybody, and I can agree with some things almost everyone says. Now, I've been watching some of the Andrew Wilson Debate Bro stuff. What he does is basically he's everything is grounded in his Christian ethics, and he really forces people to answer why they believe what they believe. And most people haven't really reflected on that. So he's able to stump them and look like a genius because no one else reflected on why they believe what they believe. And Andrew can always just say, well, I'm grounded in Christian ethics, or God says so. That's my morality. I have a moral grounding, a moral framework. The rest of the people don't. So, but the problem with his thing is it works for the people that agree with him, but there's many, many, many people that don't agree with that. So what do you do with them? So I think a lot of what he does, just like what he's pushing for, I don't think is realistic. But there's something to learn from that, though, anyway. You can learn, all right, maybe I should examine why I believe what I believe and examine the viewpoints and challenge your own beliefs. I think that's a good tool. I think everyone should do that just for their own integrity's sake.
Also on X. Of course, we were not on air during Tyler Robinson's continuance hearing, and I was just being driven crazy. So thank you especially to all the people in our book club who allowed me to vent about it for a little bit. I was pretty fired up. Anyway, first things first, a sleuth contacted me from the courthouse of a Tyler Robinson hearing. They were able to record Tyler Robinson's grandfather while he was having a conversation with the reporter, Elizabeth Lane. Now, out of courtesy, I did alert Elizabeth Lane that I was sent this and that I was in possession of the recording and that I intended to use it. She said that she had already sort of spoken about her conversation with him. So I think we are in the all clear here, but apparently there was a break during the hearing and someone was lingering behind Tyler's grandfather and a group of people as he spoke to Elizabeth. And what he has to say is quite interesting. And foremost, before we play it, I want to just say that his presence in general should interest you, right? Because we have been told by many liars on the internet that Tyler Robinson's family does not support him. To the contrary, they turned him in, remember? They recognized grandpa's gun on the news. Dad or mom recognized grandpa's gun on the news, which is weird because the news did not actually release a photo of grandpa's gun. They just released a photo of something similar. Anyways, the story goes, according to the liars, that they then convinced him to turn himself in. They think their son's guilty. They're going to testify against him. Now, I have told you from the very beginning that that is simply not true, that his father does not believe that he did it. His grandmother has spoken to journalists, and she said that she does not believe that he did it. Rather, and also I should say, Sheriff Brooksby did admit that rather the truth is that Tyler Robinson was essentially coerced to go in, right? We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way sort of a situation. He and his family were told that they were going to make an arrest either way. And if he didn't want the SWAT team or whoever it is that comes in to bang down the door and hold a weapon to his face and put his parents at risk, then he better do things the easy way. Like I said, the question here is, what does his grandfather think? Because he knows that gun. It's his gun, right? It's a family heirloom. It is his gun or was his gun before it was passed down to Tyler Robinson. So he knows that weapon better than anyone. Let's take a listen. And of course, I'm accounting for sound. We've tried to use AI, bring the voices up and get rid of the background sound. Here's what his grandfather had to say briefly at the hearing.
Someone had a stash of 80 men.
Oh, they did? A credit or?
Candace doesn't think Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger. She thinks that he's involved, but doesn't think that he pulled the trigger.
Yes. Yeah. What are you guys for Tyler? What are you for Tyler or the other side?
Grandparents.
Oh, your grandparents? Oh,
I'm really sorry you're going through this.
yeah. It's tough for you guys.
Yeah, it sucks. But we're here to support them. So.
Yeah. We think your grandchild is absolutely brained, but I'm an investigative journalist. So
Well, I do. I'm
Did you?
imagine what for the us that you do.
Yes, folks, remember to like the video. Like the video if you think Tyler Robinson is being set up. How about that? Shadow wants to know if you think that. Who thinks that Tyler Robinson's been set up in this whole thing and he's not guilty?
Man, you know, your guns, I can tell you that you're very right. That's why,
And
yeah.
my dad was a cop for years.
Yeah.
We showed him all of this.
Yeah, of course, but
Well, hold up. Hold up. Granddad says that he is here to support. He's here to support his grandson. It sounds like he is of the same opinion as Tyler Robinson's grandmother, that he did not do this, that he was not capable of doing this. And for clarity, Grandpa asserts that he himself is a hunter, right? He also says that his father, that would be Tyler Robinson's great-grandfather, was a cop for a while in that town who taught him ballistics. And he says that that is not what a 30-06 would do. Now, that is evident to everyone. Everyone keeps focusing on, of course, our big reveal that the 30-06 did not go through. But the part that you're missing is it also did not cause any significant damage.
Okay, so the best contradiction to this is actually by Andrew Wilson, by the way. He went over the variables. Perhaps I should go after that next. We should go over that next. Because rather than those other guys, they went out into the weeds. Andrew Wilson's a little more direct.
Okay. They had tried to early on, people that were in the hospital, making phone calls to various people and saying that Charlie's that basically he almost had no neck left. That was untrue. Those early phone calls that went out to various people, who I will not name because obviously I was in communication with many people that day and we spoke on the phone. We're the ones that got phone calls from the hospital. Initially, they were telling people that Charlie basically had no neck left. That was a huge lie. Outside of the wound, Charlie was in very good shape. And yes, Granddad, that is not what a 30-06 would do. So we're looking at all the situation, everything that's happened coming into this now probable cause hearing, which is supposed to happen in May, and which they are now meeting at a hearing, as they did on Friday, to say, no, we are not ready to meet in May because we're not being given what we're asking for. So first, let's recap what a probable cause hearing is, right? That's important. It's important that you understand what a probable cause hearing is. And you will recall, you can go back in my older episode, you will recall that after my sit down with Erica, I dutifully reported to you all.
Andrew Wilson is a fundamentalist Christian. He's kind of blowing up on the right now. Very pro-man. He was on Joe Rogan. So he's a very polarizing figure, by the way.
That when I asked Erica what evidence she had that Tyler Robinson, that had convinced her that Tyler Robinson had committed this crime, since she had been publicly representing that she was so confident that he was the guy, she was telling Barry Weiss, yes, 100%. My assumption was that Erica and her counsel had access to more information than the public, right? That was my assumption. Something that was a slam dunk, like a video of Tyler Robinson, a very clear video of that's our guy, Tyler Robinson, none of this grainy nonsense. Maybe a video of him taking the shot, right? That would make me, as the widow, say, I am 100% certain that's the guy. Something along those lines would have gone a very long way in terms of explaining her certainty, which she expressed throughout multiple media interviews, actually. But to my shock, she phoned her lawyer, as I told you, and he explained that actually they had nothing more than the public had. And then he went through great pains to explain to me very slowly what exactly a probable cause hearing was, because he was kind of making it seem like, oh, well, we don't have more than the public has. Don't you know how this thing works? And he explained to me that they were in the period where the state was supposed to go out and find the evidence. So they don't have any evidence yet. Remember, that's December 15th. I'm sitting down with them. No, we don't have any evidence more than the public has, but we're now in the period where the state is going to go find the evidence. And then once they find that evidence, he told me they're going to hand it over to the defense. They're going to hand it over to Tyler Robinson's team so that they could prepare arguments. They get to see the evidence and prepare arguments. Of course, you're the defendant. And then they present the probable cause hearing. That is what I was told by Erica's lawyer on December 15th. So to put it in layman terms, the goal for the prosecution in this probable cause hearing is to say, Your Honor, look at all this evidence that we have gathered. That's our guy. There is, in fact, probable cause for us to continue this case. There's enough proof that that young man should continue to be held in prison as this trial moves forward. And if you're playing defense, the goal is the exact opposite. The goal is to say, Your Honor, the evidence that they have presented is actually fraudulent. These text messages, yeah, they're fake. They made these on AI, and here's the proof. So yeah, it might be relevant that at the recent public hearing for the continuance, we learned from Tyler Robinson's team that they can't actually make any arguments on the defense because the FBI is refusing to hand over the evidence that they have been requesting for this supposed to be probable cause evidentiary hearing, okay? All the FBI is giving is their summary reports. I, Kash Patel, say that this is the gun. Trust me, bro. Love Cash App. Okay? Take a listen to Tyler Robinson's defense attorney, Richard Novak, explain that, yeah, they have the summary reports, but we don't have the data, the proof, the chain of custody to show that any of this is real. Take a listen.
What is actually outstanding is, yes, but most importantly, the data, the electronic quantification, digitization of physical evidence taken from our client and certain objects that leads these forensic examiners to conclude that there are matches. Mr. McBride says, oh, there's two different things, and so they're both right because they each independently reach the same conclusion, but they're testing different objects in different labs with different protocols. We don't even have those data. Without those data files, we can't even start to analyze, to understand, to appreciate the conclusions, the statistical analyses, the results of those tests. So yeah, the bench notes and the protocols that were followed, yeah, that's all important, but we don't even have the data files. And there's no reason that I am aware of that has been provided why the ATF and the FBI, first of all, the ATF, why they provided it in the last 3 weeks and why the FBI still hasn't. And so I don't think it's going to be a dribble of this and that and this and that. It should have all been produced, some of it 6 months ago, because we have DNA reports from September of 2025 that Mr. Gray relied upon for his information.
Yeah. They instantly came out and said, this is our guy, 33 hours. And they were basing it on evidence. And for some reason, they were unable to get that evidence over to the defense. Now, it actually gets worse because the prosecution, we learn, is planning to present 35 exhibits at probable cause hearing. 35, let's call that pictures, if you will, which will, of course, we can assume include the text messages that they very early on released to the public, right? The ones that sounded like they fell out of a Jane Austen novel. My love, this, that, I did everything, he A to Z. Well, of course, we were first told that those were Discord messages, but now they are text messages. And you're about to hear Kathy Nestor assert, that's another person on Tyler Robinson's team, that they have not yet even been given access to Tyler Robinson's phone. Could you imagine going into a hearing and they're going to be like, look at these text messages. This proves he did it. And you didn't even get access to your client's phone? Because I'm assuming, obviously, they took his phone. Take a listen to her say that.
I also have not been able to get into my...
And to be fair, I haven't been in Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, Tyler Robinson mode. So I really have to dig through all of the information because there's a lot of information to go over. I haven't dug around because what I will do, and some of this I will do with you all too, but you go over what people say. Like I've seen many people fire the guns and say, yep, this is what a 30-06 would do. Look at it did. It blew off someone's head. So I want to see that argument versus anyone who disagrees with it. And then many other things as they come to. But yes, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Send Shadow a like vest. Spank that like button if you're feeling a little bit frisky. And super chats, super stickers, becoming a channel member, or gifting channel memberships. Great way to support the channel and helps me to pay for Shadow the Night Owl here's Hootie Snacks. He appreciates it, and so do I.
Client's phone. The electronics that we have required an expert to, because they're so massive, we had to all get these huge hard drives shipped to us from our digital expert. I have not looked at my client's phone, and that concerns me, especially because the state's indicated they may call individuals uniquely connected to my client. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to commit you guys if you call them or not. But we've been given the names of some witnesses they may call. And what is on my client's phone, I think is going to be really important.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important too, because that's what everybody has been saying is the slam dunk proof. He confessed at all of these messages. Oh, we're going to bring up Tyler. We're going to bring up Lance Twiggs to talk about these messages that he received. And the defense can't prepare any arguments because they have no forensic.
Nene, Shadow can't believe it that you were not subscribed to the channel after watching for months. I wonder how many others are not subscribed to the channel after watching for months. Maybe Rooster's not even subscribed.
Information regarding whether, I don't know, was Lance holding both phones at the same time and texting himself? Did it actually happen on Discord? Did it happen on the phone at all? Did they make up these text messages entirely? Did the feds make them up? Right? Because I could make up screenshots right now and claim that these were real messages, but only an expert, a forensic expert that's given access to electronics could determine if they were real where they were sent from, all of the data, the location, to make sure that everything is authentic. Now, remember, this is supposed to be, we are told, a state case. But of course, we all remember the FBI immediately interjected. They took over everything on September 10th. They handled all of the interviews. And so what that means is that the State Bureau of Investigations, okay, that's the SBI, basically has their hands tied behind their back. They've said that. We have our hands tied behind our back. We are essentially waiting, the defense is explaining that the SBI is waiting for the FBI, Kash Patel's agency, to send them over their many discovery requests from everything they gathered on that day. And they're just not doing it in a timely fashion. Kathy.
That is suspect. I mean, is there any plausible / reasonable explanations for the FBI not doing that? I can't think of any, if so.
Nestor even claims that they haven't even seen the gun. Imagine just getting a picture. This is the gun. Your client fired. Like, okay, can I see it? Here's a picture, man. Just trust Kash Patel. He could very much be trusted. Take a listen.
We went to examine physical evidence this past week, this week. It took us 6 hours. We did finish what the SBI has. However, we still have never seen the gun. The gun is at Quantico. So we've never been able to look at the gun. I actually think that's really important for purposes of the hearing. So I have some concerns about that.
Why is the gun being kept at Quantico in Virginia? Why is the gun being kept with the feds for a state case? Why doesn't the SBI have that? Why are they getting trickled down information from Kash? Can anybody make sense of any of that? I mean, the important thing that I want to stress to you is how abnormal it is that the prosecution, Erica's team, because she's listed as the victim, is arguing against a continuance. I am, as you know, perpetually involved in lawsuits. Continuances are basically like common courtesies when you're this early on in a lawsuit, right? Suddenly an attorney can't make it because he's got some personal emergency. Oh, actually, I'm going to be on vacation that week. So-and-so just found out that his trial is going to be moot that week because, lawyers are doing various trials at the same time. I have never, in all of my personal experience, even when the lawyers hated each other, okay? Like my lawyers did not get along with Daily Wire lawyers, okay? One in particular, really not like him. Always just common courtesy. Yeah, we can bump the date to something that works for all sides, right? Because we want to get to the truth and the conclusion here. We don't need to try cheap shots and oh yeah, I can't honor the fact that you have a surgery or someone has a surgery on that day or this is going on, whatever it is. So this is in fact extraordinary. It's extraordinary the prosecution is arguing this, especially since they all agreed early on that they were happy to adjust the date if they did not get the discovery met, okay? So I do also want to address the many people who were wondering after I did my little rant on Instagram, how it is that Erica can assert her right to a speedy trial, something that we all know is constitutionally guaranteed for defendants in cases you have a right to a speedy trial. To note this, and for clarity, Erica Kirk is in fact listed as the official victim in this case, okay? On January 16th, she then filed a motion for a speedy trial in Utah. I can show you that. You can see this. It says a motion, an invocation of speedy trial rights. This was unusual. The key thing that you have to remember of how this is possible is this is a state trial, not a federal one. The state of Utah has its own codes for victims, which include a victim's right to a speedy trial. Again, that's a state code. So that's how she's able to maneuver that. And I remember when I saw that news, when it broke back in January, I couldn't really comprehend it. It was so atypical to me because common sense, of course, a defendant, okay, doesn't want to be sitting in jail. So a defendant usually wants the trial to be speedy. Rarely do you hear the prosecution, I'm going to file a thing that I want this to be speedy. The defendant sitting in jail like, yeah, man, me too. I don't want to just live here. I'd like it to be as fast as possible. So I was wondering, why is Erica needing to assert something that is kind of self-evident, right? Well, now looking at everything and having paid attention to this hearing, it just makes more sense to me. I believe this is fully the prosecution strategy. I believe they do not have a case.
Arwen, thank you very much for the super chat, Arwen. If it's a state case, Why does the FBI have the pew? Very interesting question. I think maybe because there's such a public case, the FBI took over? Is that what it is? Did the local law enforcement turn it over to them? It's a good question, Arwen. I'll have to look into that. But Shadow and I, thank you very much for the super chat there. Thank you very much. That'll help us get some Hootie snacks. Nom, nom, nom on the Hootie snacks. I'm going to look that up now, by the way.
I am in contact with many people all throughout the state of Utah. Okay. I think they want a show trial. I think Erica's team wants a show trial. They do not want to hand over crucial or critical evidence before the probable cause hearing. Instead, they want to pretend they're being transparent. They want to demand cameras inside of the courtroom and then deliver the show trial, the show hearing of the century, right? With the defense completely unable to meaningfully counter anything that they present, right? They would be up there. Look at these text messages, Your Honor. Look at he said he did it. He did it 3 times. And it felt good, Your Honor, that he did this. Not mentioned. We haven't actually proven that these messages are real. Look at this gun, Your Honor. Look at this. Do you admit that this is your gun? Do you recognize this gun? Not mentioned. The defense has never seen the gun. We're actually hiding it at Quantico. And we can't even prove that this weapon was fired, actually, on the day of Charlie's assassination. We can't prove that. Bomb dog, their noses were malfunctioning. That's my honest opinion when I look at everything that's happening in the state of play. The prosecution wants to rush the public into a show trial because they have already proven that they have the commentariat on lock. All of these people on the internet who will hysterically claim that the evidence is overwhelming and astounding and undeniable. It's so overwhelming. I can't even hear anything else. It's just so overwhelming that Tyler Robinson did this alone on a rooftop. And I want to be clear that that is horrific. That is horrific that they are willing to do that. Because what are they doing there, actually, in effect? What they are doing is they are remanding an increasingly plausibly innocent young man, a 22-year-old, to his death. Okay? He is facing the death sentence. So you better be pretty sure when you are out here saying that this is his gun and he...
So from what I'm reading here, it says that the state police of Utah is co-leading this with the FBI. Interesting.
Did it? The evidence is overwhelming that you know what you're talking about, that you are actually involved and reading the documents.
Ah, we almost missed this. Very important news I almost missed. There we are. United States Dale gifted 5 the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect memberships. That is amazing. Shadow and I, very grateful for your support. Lots of Hootie snacks coming. So now there'll be 5 more members that will have access to the members-only live streams. Make sure you give a shout-out to Dale for that. Thank you again, Dale. Dale is the best. You're going to give Shadow living high over here, living the dream.
What they're saying is they would be comfortable sending this kid to the gallows because, well, they're getting paid to influence people that way. Yep. Clearing a 5K check, 7K check, I'll take it, whatever. If he's got to die, he's got to die. That is not the karma that I would want hanging over my head and in my life, okay? You inevitably reap what you sow. You want to foster this sort of a legal system that just can pay journalists to pretend and influencers to pretend that they're anxiety induced, looking at the evidence that isn't there. That will come back to bite you. I promise you. You reap what you sow. I don't know how they do it. I am not capable of lying in that way.
And in this case, we've heard almost nothing about local law enforcement, right? Who do you hear about? You hear right to the FBI. You don't hear anything about local law enforcement. And that's in stark contrast to the Nancy Guthrie case, because in the Nancy Guthrie case, you hear way more about Sheriff Nanos in Pima County than you do anything about the FBI. I don't think the FBI has even spoken once in the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, there has been some leaks, don't get me wrong. There's been leaks from former Undersheriff Rick Castiger and former union leader Brian Cross, or what's his name? Sergeant Cross. What's his first name? Maybe not Brian, but it's Sergeant Cross, and they all spoke out, but they are with Pima County. They're not with the FBI. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting to note how two different cases that the FBI is there on both, but you would never know it. You would never know it nearly as much in Pima County, but you know much more about the FBI's presence in this case. Very interesting.
But we will see what happens, because apparently we are in generation lie right to your face, or really in that era. I shouldn't say it's a generation, but it's certainly an era. It's a turning point era. In the turning point eras tour, so we'll have one day. It was just different eras. You know, it was like the just Charlie Kirk era, and he was talking about free markets and capitalism. Then it was like the Erica and Charlie era, and suddenly it's all about faith. But these pastors are looking kind of shady, looking a little bit shady, right? What kind of pastors these are. I don't know what I would dress up to the Eras tour for these pastors. You could be moving weapons if you wanted to. And right now they are definitely in their lying a lot era. Okay. Now, despite the fact that we learned last week that the Secret Service could not accommodate Erica Kirk, she did not feel safe, despite them telling her that she was perfectly safe in Georgia. She got back on her plane despite already being there. And she just didn't trust them, right? She didn't think the Secret Service could handle it, despite them saying no threat. That was Tuesday of last week. By Friday, gratefully, Erica was all better. She decided that the threats to her life and livelihood could, in fact, be taken care of. They could actually be assuaged by the Secret Service. And so she opened for Trump at the Dream City Church in Phoenix. Now, since we all know that the real reason that she canceled the event at the University of Georgia was because of the crowd size, this makes perfect sense. It also makes perfect sense that the very first thing that she said when she came out onto the stage with her preferred WWE music was this. Take a listen.
Erica Kirk.
It's like Jersey.
Oh my goodness. Otani, you have a great night, sir. Mike, we have learned nothing new about the Brian Hooker case. I shouldn't call it the Brian Hooker case, the Lynette Hooker case. Lynette's body has not been found. There's been no charges made against Brian Hooker either. So I don't know what they're going to wait for now. I guess it's just going to be a matter of, can they get enough probable cause to say that we suspect that you did it, so we're going to charge you. And it has to be something that I guess they didn't have already, right? Because they were able to release him based on what? Based on the fact that they just didn't find any proof, I guess. So unless they find proof, I mean, he's gone, baby gone, and he might get away with this. We'll see. I gotta tell you, Erica, like, I'm not as much of an Erica hater as maybe Candace is, but she doesn't make herself look good. And she's just kind of awkward sometimes. Like, if I was advising her as a person, I would say, dude, like, and I get it, everyone's going to grieve in their own way. I'm all for that. But I would just take like a few months off. Like, go, like, take a break for a couple months. Then come back if you really, like, for a few months, be out, maybe even 6 months. And then if you want to take over Turning Point later, okay. But you spent some time with your kids, you lived and you took care of them. But that instant straight to the being the CEO is like, yeah, something about that was kind of weird to me.
Welcome. Look at this crowd.
That's what it's about. That is what it's about. It's about the crowd. Okay. It's about the crowd. That's why she canceled on JD and made him look like a fool. Now, in case you're thinking, well, maybe she kept this particular engagement with Trump because it's in her hometown. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. It's in her backyard. you should know that you would be wrong, because on this very same day, on Friday of last week, as she was preparing to do this event with Trump, and yes, that obviously we all know Turning Point USA is located there, her Turning Point team canceled her appearance at Pinnacle High School, which was slated to occur this week, but they canceled it on Friday. And the reason that they again gave was death threats against Erica's life. Let's read that email that went out. Again, this went out from Turning Point. Hey everyone, I wanted to share some important news about the event with Erica Kirk. Unfortunately, we are unable to host her at Pinnacle High School after school due to serious death threats that she has received over the past few days. We are taking her security extremely seriously, as these threats are not empty, and we must prioritize Erica's safety and well-being. I sincerely apologize for this change, but it is crucial that we ensure a safe environment for everyone involved. Okay, so she can't make it to the high school, but she can make it to the Trump rally because she knows there's going to be a crowd. Then she can pretend the crowd was for her, even though it's for Trump. And I got to say, for Trump, it's kind of a small crowd. Okay, I've seen Trump sell out stadiums. Like, that's not a big crowd for Trump. But whoa, look at this crowd all here to see me. And she's again using a death threat thing. Gratefully, it was not me that had to clock her on this lie. I'm so grateful it wasn't me this time. The entire media apparatus actually came down and told the truth. No, she did not cancel because of death threats. She canceled because there was a boycott, which was led by the parents.
So please remember to like the video, whether you love Candace or hate her, or love Erica Kirk or hate her. Shadow wants you to like the video anyway. Spank that like button. Send Shadow a like vest. The like vest that Brian Hooker should have sent to Lynette Hooker but did not. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Shadow still doesn't understand how Brian Hooker didn't try a little harder to rescue Lynette Hooker, but that's a story for another day.
Parents and the teachers and the students who do not want Erica Kirk at their school. She is not favored by the students, okay? Just like she's not favored by the people who work under her. Here's a Newsweek headline. They wrote, Erica Kirk's high school talk sparks furious backlash from parents. That's reality. Here's a Daily Beast. High school moves Erica Kirk event off campus after students revolt. That is reality. Here is the local Arizona Republic. A high school group invited Erica Kirk to campus. Parents are not happy. That is the reality. When you read the, read these articles, what they're telling you is the truth. I showed you last week. They were organizing on Facebook.
And everyone should check out Nini's trucking channel. Drop the name of your channel again in the chat, Nini.
Never, by the way, ask anybody to boycott, do nothing with Erica Kirk. So don't pretend like people are doing this because of me. They are doing this because they find her to be increasingly unbelievable, right? She's not authentic. She's not like Charlie Kirk. She doesn't have the Charlie Kirk factor. She has approached everything like an elitist, like she was born for this role, and everyone all hail Queen Erica. And how dare you notice that I've lied about all of my qualifications and about who I am and where I come from and how I was raised. How dare you? That is not going to click with the general public. So yes, you can continue to hide behind Donald Trump, which is going to be her new move. She's going to have to essentially just keep opening up for Donald Trump and people that are bigger than her. I mean, she could open up for Drewski. She could probably open up for Tucker Carlson, and there would be a crowd there. But Erica cannot draw a crowd by herself yet.
So this is Nini's trucking channel, Freight Cam USA. Go check that out.
Yet maybe there's going to be a moment where she decides to be honest, sit down, say, here's all my text messages with everybody, and let me answer every question about why I behaved like that. Maybe she'll do 3 hours with Joe Rogan. He thinks she's weird too, but maybe she'll sit down and she'll just go, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And here's the reason why. And I did do that. And yeah, I did actually lead all those early attacks against Candace quietly that she found out about. Yeah, I did call people fake crying and telling them not to go to the Catholic event she was speaking at. I know I've been playing nice, but I'm actually a little bit evil. I'm a little bit evil. I'm kind of possessed. And then people will go, wow, that was really honest. I like that, because there's even something relatable about someone who just kind of is openly honest, right? It feels less manipulative. I said that. I was speaking to someone and I said, we all knew Hillary Clinton was evil, right? She's got a past. Like when Trump was like, she should be in prison. I mean, now Trump should definitely be like in prison, right? But she still had a real following. That was not imagined. I mean, I had people that were at war with each other, people that were voting for her, tons of women. She had the feminist movement behind her. That was a real audience. That was not imagined. There was no illusion. That was not special effects. Hillary Clinton definitely had a following, but we knew she was evil. Why? Because there is something even relatable about evil when it's honest, you know? Hillary Clinton's like, I am just ambitious. And I will say this, Hillary Clinton was smart. She wasn't playing the part. Would she have like totally made Bill step aside? What is she? 100%, 1000%. Who knows what she, like, it was, you know, their relationship, as Elizabeth Lane said, nobody's ever accused him of being in love. She was highly ambitious, but she is highly intelligent. She is infinitely more intelligent than Bill. Okay. She knows policy. She knows what she's doing. She is, in fact, if we're talking about just based on intellect and experience, she would be qualified to hold a position in cabinet as she did. Like that's not crazy. That's not her just being given a crown. Hillary Clinton worked hard in her life, right? No one ever accused Hillary Clinton of being stupid is my point. We are getting something entirely different with Erica, right? We are getting like, especially white male men. And we're being gaslit about that. And we're being told that she's overqualified and she graduated, she says two different, she says she's graduated summa cum laude. And sometimes she says she's graduated with other honors and nothing has been proven. And they just want us to think that she's Charlie and she's not. So we'll see. We will keep monitoring what is happening. Like I said, these revolts are happening all around the nation.
And to be clear, I mean, Erica Kirk wouldn't have been my first choice. If I'm other people at Turning Point, unless there was some sort of clause in place that was already going to install her there, I don't know. That wouldn't have been my first choice. Because did anyone know who she was? Did anyone know who she was until this happened? I didn't know. I didn't know who she was. I would suspect that big fans of Charlie Kirk might have known. Maybe. But how often did he really even talk about her or have her on his show? Did he ever? I don't think so.
She is actually, in effect, destroying everything that Charlie built. And we'll see how much longer they limp on and keep up this illusion. Trump can't save you. Trump actually can't even save himself. We'll talk about more regarding Trump when we come back from a brief break. All right, you guys, Mother's Day is one of the most beautiful times of...
B's making fun of Candace. White male men. What other kind of white males are there, Candace, eh? Where are we? Long ads. My goodness.
Again, that's tnusa.com/Candace. I wish I could go back to the days where I just thought it was Hillary Clinton that was corrupt. I wish I could go back to the days where I just thought that it was Democrats. You know, like, oh, yeah, it's corruption's over. When Trump gets in office, it's going to be different. Don't you wish those days where we just all looked at each other and you were like, yeah, it's the Republicans. I was like, yeah, it's the Democrats. I want a little bit of nostalgia right now. I just want to miss it for a second. And now we've woken up and we realize
that is true, Rooster. There are some white males that are not fully men yet. White as opposed to white male boys or white male teens, right?
It's both sides. It is both sides. We are the big losers. We are the forgotten Americans. And Trump is just doing it dirtier than anybody else. Maybe because it's the last 4 years. He doesn't care. You know, just did some deals with the devils. Doing deals with a lot of devils, actually. We're going to talk about that. And I have to say how sad it is. Like, I was doing today's episode and I almost forgot that Trump tweeted twice about me on Friday. That's kind of sad, right? That's how you know you're just slipping into irrelevancy. You're the president of the United States to tweet, and it's not even making the news like it used to because it's just too long. You're just saying too much. No one wants to read it. They don't have time. I have a book club. Maybe we'll read it in one of my book club meetings. I have no idea what on earth he was watching aboard Air Force One on Fox News that set off his little spree of anger this time, but he wrote this on Truth Social. I'm on Air Force One, heading to Las Vegas and Arizona for greetings and speeches on no tax on tips, a windfall for our great Americans.
Oh, that's funny. Mike says Candace is the worst thing since spam. What do you think about that, Shadow? Shadow says, I appreciate the super chat. And I have my days with Candace, right? It depends on the topic. Sometimes I don't like her. Other times I can agree with her. Something about her tone always just annoys me a little bit. But that's the thing about it, though. She's not always wrong. But her, the person, I'm like, I don't know. But thank you very much, Mike. Shadow appreciates it.
Citizens, I am watching one of the least attractive and talented people on all of television, Jessica Tarlov. Her voice is so grating and terrible, I had to turn her off. Her Democrat sound bites are fake. She makes up poll numbers and nobody challenges her because she's so boring. I have among the best poll numbers I have ever had, and why shouldn't I? All the country does is win. CNN had me at 100% saying they never saw that before. Get her off air. She is bad for our country. I hear Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens are dying fast. Their numbers are terrible. Nobody believes them anymore. They were fake MAGA. And now they've been exposed. President DJT. He's definitely not writing these. Just so you guys, this isn't even how he speaks. This is not.
And here's the thing, though. We live in the era of political theatrics. And now, unlike previous generations, social media gives everyone a stage. Every social media platform is a stage. X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all a stage. And they're a stage to do your theatrics, whatever they are. I can't necessarily say it's been a good thing overall. I think it's certainly, because there's one big thing about it too. Everyone knows now what other people think politically for the very most part. Like if you have any kind of interaction with them online, over time, you'll know where they fall over time. And that was something that back in the day, people just didn't talk about it all the time. There were always some people that were political junkies, sure. But I think there were a fair amount of people that didn't really care about it that much. And it just didn't really come up. And I think there's pros and cons to that. Dwight D. Eisenhower said politics should be the part-time profession of every time U.S. citizen. I understand that view. Part-time profession, though, right? Not full-time, perhaps. So it's interesting. But now the political sphere is in everyone's face. And I think it's more difficult to know what is true today and what is not true. That's another casualty of the social media era. Shadow doesn't like that part either.
How he speaks. So I don't know who has access to this feed, but it's not Trump. Okay. It's just not Trump. He had a second tweet as well, a follow-up where I think he called me mentally ill. He called me mentally ill. He mentioned Megyn Kelly again. She didn't get a name that time. Sorry, Megyn. Looks like you're dying fast because I got called like 3 names over the weekend. You only got called 2. So I'm big time now. But it makes you wonder who is actually drafting these messages. Who even are Trump's advisors anymore? He used to be surrounded by sane and rational people. Now he is accusing people like me and Tucker and Megyn of being irrelevant and mentally ill. Meanwhile, Laura Loomer claims she is his #1 advisor and she speaks to him almost daily. And that right there might be the biggest clue as to why Trump is behaving like he is off the rails, right? It's kind of like you eventually just become the people that you spend your most time with and you spend your most time speaking to, right? You become an average. And so President Trump went from Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk had his ear to...
Oh, Shadow, we got another super chat, Shadow. £2, or is it euros? I think it's pounds. Thank you for hosting this. Love it. I love that too for you, or for us, Aries, I should say. Shadow says thank you. More Hootie snacks for Shadow. The rest of you, remember, likes are free. So spank the like button or send Shadow a like vest. Do what Brian Hooker should have done for Lynette Hooker, but did not. Shadow would appreciate that. And say hello to the flock of black sheep here in the live chat too. And later this week, Wednesday or Thursday, I'm thinking Thursday. Thursday, you can do a members-only live stream. I would say tomorrow, but since there's fewer people here today, I want more people to be here for the announcement.
To Laura Loomer. And I think you guys need to more fully grasp not just who Laura Loomer is, but what Laura Loomer is, okay? I met Laura Loomer years ago. I was on the way to do one of my first events, the David Horowitz Center, and we happened to be on the same plane. She was crying because Twitter had removed her check mark. This was back when Jack Dorsey had it. Since we lived nearby, I was friendly with her, never had an issue with her because I just don't see a reason to start with people and have issues with people. There are tons of crazy people. And I felt very sad for her too, because she was sort of living in a rented basement in Westchester by herself. And she didn't have any friends that could take her to go get her wisdom teeth out. And she asked me if I could pick her up, right? And I never shared that story because I felt sad for her. Like she had no friends and no family in her life that could pick her up after a procedure that she needed to get done. And I did that, right? And don't worry, because her differing opinion on me on Israel is going to be the reason that she starts attacking me. Now, the first thing that you should know about Laura Loomer is that when people say Laura Loomer is crazy, they're not being funny, right? Laura Loomer is genuinely crazy. We're going to get into that. She's not even Jewish. Her entire identity as being a...
Now, this is something I agree with Candace on. I think Laura Loomer is out of her gourd.
Feisty Jewess is something that she made up around 2019. She told me that she was not Jewish. She told multiple people that she is not Jewish. Her mother is a woman named Joanne Singe. Laura is Irish and English. Obviously, Judaism is matrilineal. She was not raised in temple. She was not bat mitzvah. She just decided that it was politically expedient to pretend that she was Jewish. She only learned how to draw a Star of David a couple of years ago when she was running for Congress. Okay, here's a clip of her learning to draw a Star of David a couple of years ago. This is your number one Zionist on X. Look at this clip.
All right, there we go.
Very good. They're almost identical. And
don't take photos of this. I don't want people know.
The second thing that you should know is that Laura Loomer has a real mental disorder. Like I said, people, this person's crazy. She's mentally ill, right? Trump says this. No, Laura is actually forbidden to own weapons. She cannot buy weapons. She cannot own them because she was placed on 2 involuntary psychiatric holds by her own father, who allegedly is very fearful of her because she has had multiple...
Now, I do believe this is true as well. You wouldn't have thought it, but I think it's true.
Suicide attempts. She attempted... recently to file an appeal with the FBI to reverse the banning on her owning weapons, and they declined to remove it, citing the fact that she had been involuntarily placed on psychiatric holds. Now, according to her former campaign manager, Milo Yiannopoulos, who she has never sued and simply blocks, he wrote and published a piece which should be read by everybody. And in that piece, he wrote this, quote, Laura Loomer has been diagnosed at various times and by various doctors as suffering from bipolar disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder.
Oh, we're going to go over this in a second too. But we got another super chat by Mike. Thank you very much, Mike. Shadow and I appreciate this very much. Jared, your thoughts on Laura Loomer? Laura Loomer is a grifting Zionist shill that is pretty much like a psychopath for Israel. And she is a proud Islamophobic person, as she's in her own words, apparently. So she's just basically someone that's all in on Team Israel and all in on Team Trump. And she'll say and do anything to defend Trump and Israel. Period. That's as far as she goes. So that's my thoughts on Laura Loomer. And just basically any take of hers you'll see on X, it's just out of control. She's out of control. Now, granted, there's other people out of control too. Don't get me wrong. She's just one that's more brazen to me. It's very, very obvious what she's up to. Just pro-Trump, pro-Israel, the end. And I should say anti-Islam. Pro-Trump, pro-Israel, anti-Islam. That's Laura Loomer. And this is also Laura Loomer. But thank you very much for that, Mike. Shadow and I appreciate that. Let's see what else here. Laura Loomer has been diagnosed at various times and by various doctors as suffering from bipolar disorder. Quick note on bipolar disorder. Narcissism can be misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder up to 50% of the time. Why? because when they're being admired and getting a good amount of narcissistic supply, they can feel elated and have a high manic-like mood. But if they're getting criticized or not getting enough admiration and attention, then they can get a low. And the fact that their mood can change so quickly, then it can look like bipolar disorder, but it's really based on how the outside world is treating them. But it can look like bipolar. But she also has histrionic personality disorder. That's cluster B, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. How do you know? Loomer's mother, whom we are not naming today, is an alcoholic, manic depressive, and suffers from bipolar disorder in common with her daughter. Now, who said this? Who wrote this? Candace didn't, right? She's reading it from somebody. Let's find out who said it.
Disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, and simply blocks. He wrote and published a piece which should be read by everybody. And in that piece, he wrote this, quote, Laura Loomer has been diagnosed at various times and by various doctors as suffering from bipolar disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Loomer's mother, whom we are not naming today, is an alcoholic, a manic depressive, and suffers from bipolar disorder in common with her daughter. Loomer has two brothers. One is a violent schizophrenic who is permanently incarcerated in a psychiatric facility. He will never be released. The other also suffers from depression and mood disorders and has been in and out of institutions all his life. Okay, end quote. Now, it's interesting that she's given access to the President of the United States. Everyone sees that this is a fatal attraction. In fact, I am told by people is very fearful of her because she has had multiple suicide attempts on X. Look at this clip.
I'm rewinding because I want to hear who said it. Oh, someone said this is a pentagram. It's really just the Israeli star of David.
All right, there we go.
Very good. They're almost identical. And
No, don't take photos of this. I don't want people know.
The second thing that you should know is that Laura Loomer has a real mental disorder. Like I said, people, oh, this person's crazy. She's mentally ill, right? Trump says this. No, Laura is actually forbidden to own weapons. She cannot buy weapons. She cannot own them because she was placed on 2 involuntary psychiatric holds by her own father, who allegedly is very fearful of her because she has had multiple suicide attempts. She attempted recently to file an appeal with the FBI to reverse the banning on her owning weapons, and they declined to remove it, citing the fact.
But the problem is she's in a high level here. That's more of the problem. So it can be tempting to feel bad for certain people, but that's also probably exactly what they would want you to do. They'd want you to kind of see them as like a victim, as a way to avoid accountability and to manipulate others. But the fact that she's so connected to Trump, that's a little bit, and such a like the most powerful person in the world, she's on a first name basis, calling on the phone basis with him. A little bit troubling, I would say.
Fact that she had been involuntarily placed on psychiatric holds. Now, according to her former campaign manager, Milo Yiannopoulos, who she has never sued and simply blocks.
Oh, Milo. So Milo said this. That makes me question a little bit how true it is, actually. If Milo Yiannopoulos said it. Do any of you know who Milo is?
He wrote and published a piece which should be read by everybody. And in that piece, he wrote this, quote, Laura Loomer has been diagnosed at various times and by various doctors as suffering from bipolar disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Loomer's mother, whom we are not naming today, is an alcoholic, a manic depressive, and suffers from bipolar disorder in common with her daughter. Loomer has 2 brothers. One is a violent schizophrenic who is permanently incarcerated in a psychiatric facility. He will never be released. The other also suffers from depression and mood disorders and has been in and out of institutions all his life. Okay, end quote. Now, it's interesting that she's given access to the President of the United States. Everyone sees that this is a fatal attraction.
And Milo's out of control, right? He was basically the original antagonist, grifting person.
In fact, I am told by people in Melania's circle that they believe, like, yeah, actually the most likely person to harm Donald Trump would be Laura Loomer. And yet this completely somehow evades the president. He allows her in his circle. The question is why? And it's not just that she lies. It's not just that she is bipolar. It's not just that she often says that she's going to commit suicide as a threat when she doesn't get what she wants. But Laura Loomer is also a malignant sexual predator and has been repeatedly accused since the beginning of her career of raping and sexually assaulting men. That is not a typical thing that men come out with, that men come out and say, a woman sexually assaulted me, right? Take, for example, Alan Jacoby. This happened just last week, 10 days ago. He is the founder of Patriot Cigar, and he just tweeted this 10 days ago. Laura Loomer is a sexual predator psychopath. I was, in fact, a victim of her wrath.
Patriot Cigar. I think I heard some of this story. I mean, look at Laura here, though. Like, she just has a face that's like, my face reading skills, the alarm goes off. Like, you want to be careful here.
Loomer and I spent the day with President Trump at Bedminster watching the golf tournament from the president's box. She asked me several times for a selfie. As you can see, that lean line does not lie. She constantly got uncomfortably close to me. She groped me in the parking lot, grabbing my crotch very aggressively and demanding that I come back to her New York City hotel room to engage in some vile, descriptive sexual activities. She's an absolute psychopath who preys on men who she thinks that she can manipulate. She's a menace to society. Again, there are just a long line of men who have come out with a story like this. If you don't believe him, here is a video, if it has been going viral many times, of Laura trying to seduce a young man who is clearly uncomfortable on camera. Take a look at this.
Your hair and your eyes look so good. You're like beautiful.
Thank you.
You're like an Aryan degenerate goddess.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. You're Aryan too.
I know, but I'm Jewish.
It's okay.
Because you're such a cutie.
Don't mess my hair. God, fix it. Fix my hair. Did you fix it?
I did. But like that picture you posted on Instagram recently when you got like reinstated on Facebook was so hot. Like,
who is this person? Who is the blonde dude?
Seriously.
I appreciate it.
It's so good.
It's a good picture.
Your skin and the Nazis hate me.
It's fun.
The alt-right people want to put me in a gas chamber because they're obsessed with the Jews.
I don't.
She sounds drunk here.
I think they're just memeing on you, but it's okay.
It's okay. I don't care. I love it.
It'd be like that sometimes.
I know. They're just jealous because I have big tits and an Ashkenazi IQ.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You got it.
Anyway, next time you're in New York, let me know. We'll hang out. Bring your girlfriend to New York sometime, and we'll all hang out. We'll go to like really cool restaurants and hang out and we'll have a blast.
Yes, I will bring my girlfriend.
Yeah, I want to meet. What, Becca?
Yeah.
Becca.
Yes.
She's so sweet.
You remember?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you'll meet her.
You guys are so sweet. I hope it works out because, like I said, I know it's all an act. Like, I know everything you do on Twitter is like so fake and not real, but
yeah,
like,
it's all fake.
It's so sweet that you like and your girlfriend have been together for 3 years. I love it.
I know it's all an act.
Do you know something? Like, I'm gonna tell you.
I'll tell you, she's very handsy for someone that has a girlfriend. This guy has a girlfriend or wife or whatever it is. She's very handsy.
A secret, like, do you know so many people in this movement who preach trad life are like people on the side and like cheating on their partners?
That's
like,
so bad.
Like, they're not even like really trad life.
Such
like,
scum.
Like my ex is like dating somebody who's like super trad life, and she was like my boyfriend while we were dating and like ruined our relationship. And I act like it's okay, but like it's really sad because like I love when people like keep, you know, tradition in their relationships. It's just really sad.
Milo Yiannopoulos similarly described, and again, he published this, her repeated assault on a young Brazilian man who worked on her campaign. And he's not alleging here. Okay. He claims that it is a fact that he can prove through many messages. Take a listen.
Laura Loomer, who's the most insane person, and I was, you know, there was
good friends with Laura too.
Well, no, I was not good friends with Laura. I was loose allies with Laura until I met her, and then when I met her properly and spent time with her, I realized she was absolutely mental.
Look at Milo here, looking like a freaking cowboy, but with a British accent.
I distanced myself very quickly. Well, I distanced myself because she used to force herself on young male volunteers, 20, 21-year-olds. And she would go in the middle of the night. And I mean, some men will find this to be quite titulating, although
yeah,
you know,
this sounds kind of good. What is
when you imagine sort of the face of the of the saw doll, you know, just sort of like you pull up the covers and there's the saw doll. I would like to play a game. It's less enticing. But she would climb into bed with these volunteers and them off in the middle of the night. Sorry to use that language, but I did tell you to put your children to bed.
No way. She wouldn't go and sexually assault random guys and just blow them.
I'm telling you because I lived in the pool house with her victim in 2020, who didn't know how to make it stop. He was a young Brazilian volunteer on her 2020 congressional campaign. I know because I helped to run that campaign. Okay, so don't tell me you don't believe it. I was there. She was creeping into bed with him, and she convinced herself that they were in love. And he was coming to me every day saying, "How do I make this stop?"
You say, "Get off me." I mean, that didn't seem that hard. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you would think that, but this is a young guy who's, I never really understood when people talked about power dynamics in rape before. I was like, okay, fine, either you want the sex or you don't, or whatever. But I kind of got it when this young man, which surprised me greatly, said, well, this was Laura Loomer. I didn't know how to say no. I said, what do you mean it's Laura Loomer? He said, well, she's like Laura Loomer. And I said, what does that mean? He's like, well, she might be a congresswoman. Like, I don't know if it's okay to like. And so I realized in that moment, especially because it was a man, which was so sort of peculiar and confusing to me. It was bizarre to me, but he meant it, and he was asking me how to make it stop.
And that's an interesting name of that channel, Nero, named after one of the quote-unquote most evil Roman emperors of all time, Nero, who reportedly played the flute while the city of Rome burned. Interesting choice of name.
There are women who have spoken out and said that this is real, that she has assaulted many men. And like I said, she has never sued any of these people for putting this information out there. Instead, she just blocks them. So the question becomes, why does Donald Trump allow her anywhere near the White House? Okay. Maybe the answer can be best summed up in her tweet to Benny Johnson when he said, pray for your enemies. Laura Loomer responded, don't pray for your enemies, Benny. Pray for your enemies to be destroyed and celebrate when they struggle. We don't have time for compassion for evil people. Break them down and conquer them with psychological warfare until they beg for mercy. Do not pray for them. This is Laura Loomer's strategy. She believes in quote unquote psychological warfare, which means she makes up vicious rumors about people, like she did when DeSantis was running, and Trump and his campaign found her to be quite useful when she said things like Casey DeSantis is making up cancer. Not something anyone would say, right? No dignity in that. Already going through a lot. You don't say someone's making up cancer, but these are the sorts of things that she does. She starts vicious rumors and she leaves it on the person.
Of all the things like bipolar, that really is more of like a chemical imbalance. The personality disorders are the things that are really the issue. They're the ones that cause the abuse and harm. But bipolar, usually you just get medicated and it evens you out. And as long as you have your medicine, you're not going to go through manias and depressions.
To come up for air and explain that that's not true. And people typically get flustered. That's what she thinks is going to work on me. Making up AI photos and releasing them of my husband, literal AI photos, and trying to pass them off as authentic so she can make a claim that he's gay, accusing us of being separated like she did this weekend, attacking my children. That was trending. Laura Loomer attacks Candace's children as feud escalates, claiming, as she did today, that my husband got drunk and hit a man in a car while brandishing a gun. This is her tweet, and she named the victim. Here it is. She knows none of this is true. Candace Owens says, I don't.
And Snoop, I want to put this question up here because it's actually important. Jared, then that means a whole lot of people are walking around misdiagnosed? Absolutely. Psychiatrists get it wrong way more than they would want you to believe. They get tons of things wrong. They don't want you to believe that because they want you to have faith in the professionals, but especially when it comes to mental health, they mess it up all the time. And they misdiagnose people all the time. So take that for what it's worth.
Land any hits. Mind you, I have to post the screenshot of her reply because she blocked me. I did not block her. What type of hits do you want me to land, Candace? Do you want me to land a hit like your husband, George Farmer, allegedly landed when he allegedly hit, aka crashed into Tracy Robinson's car while he was allegedly driving drunk with an alleged firearm in his possession as a green card holder in Nashville, Tennessee, where you live? Remember Tracy? Sore subject? When are you going to tell your viewers about Tracy Robinson instead of simping for Tyler Robinson? Come on, Candy. tell everyone who Tracy is, or should I direct them to the courts in Davidson County in Nashville, Tennessee? Well, by all means, I'm happy to tell everybody who Tracy Robinson is. I hadn't thought to do it because I've never met Tracy Robinson. I don't know Tracy Robinson, but certainly I learned his name.
And that's the thing about alcohol. Alcohol will bring out anything that's on the inside of you. It'll bring out. And sometimes what comes out is not very pretty. That's for sure. Now, people who get into turn into assholes when they're drunk, that can be a mask slip moment for some of the personality disordered folks. If you really become a real douche, yeah, that can be a mask slip. Drinking, sort of like in John Steinbeck's East of Eden, the character Kathy, she refused to drink because if she ever had more than a couple drinks, the mask would slip and the psychopath would come out.
When Laura dug up the fact that my insurance did pay a Tracy Robinson $6,987. We can show you that right here. As she said, you can find this on Nashville courts, and it is true. As you can see, a grand total of $6,987 for brandishing a gun and hitting somebody drunk. That sounds like a steal. That sounds like if that were true, people would be out there playing Grand Theft Auto. You could hit people drunk driving, just vent out some anger and only have to pay $7,000. The reality is my husband got into a fender bender pulling out of a parking lot on a rainy day in broad daylight about noon, I think it was. The police were not even called because two of them got out of the car, said a couple of FUs, calmed down, shook each other's hand and said, it's not worth calling the cops. Mr. Tracy Robinson maybe had a scratch on his car. George said, I'm happy to pay. And they exchanged insurances, drove off. And a couple of days later, Tracy decided he had post-whiplash disorder, went to the doctor, and we had to pay a grand total of $6,987. There was no drinking involved. There was no DUI involved. There were no police called. And yet this is her strategy. This is why Trump uses her, because she is willing to, in her ever-present mental disorder, to go after people's families, to make up rumors, to go after my in-laws, as she has done. She has tagged them. She attacks people who have nothing to do with anything, things that most people will not lower themselves to do. She will do. And like she says, she believes that breaks people psychologically. That's her goal. And Trump uses her as a pit bull. And let me tell you, Trump, you will eventually reap what you sow. People that are in your circle that have concerns that this is a fatal attraction should be listened to. Okay. You should look into the reasons why she cannot own a gun. You should speak to your friend Roger Stone about her suicidal attempts and the things that she says and the things that she does and the accounts that she operates behind the scenes. You don't play with fire and expect not to be burned. Now, in regards to me, I can guarantee you, I am psychologically stronger than you. I've never had to be placed on a psychological involuntary hold. And I am not going to be intimidated by a Trump family thug who thinks that making up videos and using AI to put out rumors is going to scare me.
By the way, Shadow wants me to remind you all to hit the like button because likes are free. So spank the like button, send Shadow a like vest, leave your DNA in the like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. There's probably people that watch a lot that aren't subscribed and just don't realize it. That does happen too. And say hello to the flock of black sheep here in the live chat. We got a great group of folks. A lot of Pisces fishes in here too. And as always, super chats, super stickers, becoming a channel member or gifting channel memberships. Great way to support the channel. And they all help me pay for more hootie snacks for Shadow the Night Owl.
My family, what frustrates people the most about me is we are remarkably boring. We have a very consistent family life. We really do most of our stuff with the church and with our church friends. And I advise people start living their lives that way so that they have more value, so they don't end up like Laura Loomer in a basement with no friends and family to take them to a basic appointment. So we will not be intimidated. And Trump, if this is the last card that you have, yeah, it's pretty pathetic. That's all I'm going to say about that. We'll be right back after a break. All right, you guys, I'm going to tell you about Nimi Skincare because a lot of people are starting to look for more natural skincare options, especially ingredients like tallow, but not all tallow products are the same. Multiple people, and he still showed up. That is why people followed Charlie. Yeah, I know you really think about that, the contrast there. And honestly, I wish he hadn't showed up. I think in the last week of his life, he was starting to put together a lot of pieces, but still trusted some people that he obviously shouldn't have. Joe Mattia writes, on Erica's last video, someone commented, forgive Drewski like you forgave the shooter. LOL, that's so on point. It is very, very funny. Yeah, a lot more anger at the culture than she had for.
If I were Erica Kirk, I would just let the Drewski stuff slide. Just like let it go. But the fact you get a little upset about it, it's like, oh yeah, this just doesn't make her look good. Another thing that doesn't make her look good, and a long list of things that doesn't make her look good.
Or Tyler Robinson, but that makes sense. What did Tyler Robinson do, actually? Well, I'm trying to find out. It certainly has not yet been presented throughout.
Yeah, Shadow and I should start doing our skincare routines. Niacinamide and collagen, great for your skin. How do you think yours truly looks as young as I do? I'll start talking about, because I think mostly women follow me, so I have to start talking about the same things Candace does and Ashley Banfield.
These hearings. Okay, let's get to some comments for today. Let me scroll down here. Flame of Love writes, Trump is a good enemy to have. No one wants to be liked by a traitor, right? Pope Leo, yeah, you know what? You are right. Trump is a good enemy to have. I mean, it certainly is not making me think that I'm dying fast. I would say that. I think that if the leader of the free world has you on his mind as he is on Air Force One, you probably do have a little bit of influence, I would say. A Seven Sheets writes, Grandpa's words sum it up for me. I pray for the family that is being put through this. Yeah, you know me. I'm also biased towards granddads. You know, I just love my granddad so much. My granddad's the reason I act like this. There have been so many articles written trying to get, what's the secret? It's my granddad. I keep telling these people, granddad, I couldn't do anything wrong. He just adored me. Just absolutely adored me. And he was so loyal and also forthright and just very stubborn in making sure that the truth was always what was being expressed in the household. Always Be True writes, is the prosecution claiming premeditation? How did the lone gunman prep for it? When was the actual location disclosed for him to do recon? And he's an elite sniper and Parker athlete. Obviously, trust me, bro, ain't cutting up. I'm getting the sense that they had multiple Tyler Robinson lookalikes that day. That's why the footage is grainy. And it's just impossible that all this footage is going to be grainy, okay? I think there were multiple Tyler Robinson lookalikes, and they were wearing maroon shirts and wearing hats and wearing what they were supposed to wear, and they're never going to show us a clear picture of Tyler Robinson because it's very easy to find a Tyler Robinson lookalike and to blur it. That is my conspiracy theory. We will see as things transpire throughout court, because I don't know how they're going to be able to sell. Everything was just blurry and we just couldn't get one clear image at all of these cameras, just not even one. I also heard a rumor, you guys, that the footage before September 10th, in the lead up to September 10th, that police officers were trying to go, okay, well, let's also look at the days leading up to it, like the 2 weeks leading up to it. And that footage apparently doesn't exist either, because they had speculated that someone would have had to do some recon, maybe on this roof. How do we even know the footage is from that day? Maybe the person was on the roof another day. That footage, I am told, doesn't exist. I'm trying to understand if that means that it was taken by the feds, as they took the inside of Timpanogos Hospital's footage for some reason. Maybe because he didn't go there first. Maybe because there's evidence that Charlie actually went to Utah Valley Hospital first. But there seems to be an absence of a lot of footage that could go a long way in terms of clearing matters up. Ave Questions writes, Trump, Candace is a nobody, but he continues to tweet and it's giving a disgruntled ex-boyfriend stalker vibes. Like, bro, move on with your life. LMAO, go Max. God wins this spiritual war. I totally agree. I think that we are in the truth era, and people that are lying are going to face a collapse of support. For a long time, the lies worked. They landed. They worked on us. Like I said, I almost missed the days where I was buying the Republican versus Democrat stuff. Alas, I'm old, and I'm getting older. Curious Joel writes, Erica's walkout music is giving the Imperial March from Star Wars.
Look at that. Candace no longer part of the right versus left dichotomy. I have not been a part of that for a while myself, but there's others who agree with her. The Young Turks agree with her. Others agree with her as well.
Who's making these decisions? That is so good. You are so right. And I've only seen Star Wars, like each of them like one time, but that is totally assuming you're talking about the bad guys like every time they come out. That's very funny, Curious Joel. It is giving the Imperial March from Star Wars. He asks who's making these decisions. It seems like she's just accepting her role as an evil villain. It's a weird strategy, but okay, I guess. Hey, look, if you fully accept it, maybe there's something relatable about it. We'll see. Nikki, she just doesn't feel like the clever, like usually with evil, there is a genius there too. And we're not getting that yet, actually.
Not always. When someone's evil, sometimes they can be smart, but not always, for sure. There's some dumb, evil people too.
Because a lot of these lies have been very stupid. Curious Joel writes, Erica, oh, I'm sorry, I just read that. Nikki Schumacher writes, as a Reformed Baptist, I cannot with Allie Beth's stuck up. She is late and wrong often. I remember way before COVID, she went after the anti-vaxxers, aka yours truly, with her mean girl BS. I don't know how Allie Sucky just caught a stray. I was reading these comments live. Nikki, I don't know if you just came off from her channel.
Remember to like the video. That way Shadow never catches a stray.
I am not a fan of her. I definitely think that I've seen the Christian thing, kind of the scales have fallen from my eyes, and it is giving, like I said, it's like the Ave Regina George or something. There is definitely.
Mike Shadow thinks it's about time to go to the next video because Candace is kind of on the ramble now.
A syndicate of mean girls who don't like people but pretend to wrap it up in a Bible verse, so like no one can contend with it. And the post Charlie Kirk Alley, I am not a massive fan of, but there's an audience for everybody. May she do well. Trish Magistus, maybe. I find it strange how the first person to leak the death of Charlie Kirk is a licensed gun dealer with a shady past. Christ is king. Oh, more on that, my friends. We have not let up on Victor Marks. More on that.
This is Candace's business model, though, too, to like kind of dig in and question every theory that's out there. And here's what it does, though. It does give credence to them. Some get proven true. Others kind of go nowhere. But that's her deal. That's what she does. It's very lucrative.
Are correct. It is shady. And yeah, we should just not forget that it is for some reason very hard for Turning Point to surround themselves with pastors that do not have complicated pasts or presents. Can you say that? Pasts or present? Can you make presence with an S? Past or presence? Yeah, right? Yeah. I did it. It's done. So there we go. Queen Saxy writes, look at the pictures of Tyler Robinson's roommate. Honestly, part of me wonders if it was his roommate that helped set him up. I believe so. I believe he's one of the people that's walking that day. That is going to be a blurred image. He had access to Tyler's whole life, and similarly, his build and dark hair.
What really happened to Charlie Kirk? Andrew Wilson versus Zach Costello. What do you think, Shadow? Who's going to win?
You've maybe had a chance to look through some of my arguments. I've seen a couple of yours. I mentioned and noted the one on Joe Rogan when you guys were talking about Candace Owens. Give us kind of a starting point of where you are with
those weren't arguments. Those were me giving a mind state or my belief of X, right? I wasn't actually making any arguments there. So here's the problem with this topic. Anytime I try to talk to somebody who has any level of influence, who is regurgitating any of the nonsense, they can't actually tell me what they're alleging. Like, they can't ever tell me, like, here's what we're actually alleging.
So I think Andrew Wilson, he does not believe in the conspiracies either, I think. I think he kind of thinks it's more as it is. And we'll see how he does in this. This will be interesting. Now, Andrew Wilson's an interesting figure because he's on the right. He's on the right, and there's going to be a certain portion of the people that certainly do not agree with him on this. On the right, I would say.
So inside of, if we're gonna make comparisons of theories, do you agree that some theories are superior to other theories, right? Even in science, this is true. There's a term that we use for this called theoretical virtues. Theoretical virtues are the things inside of a theory which makes the theory more or less, essentially good to use for the purpose of discovering or utilizing information or things like this, right? Now that there's more to it than that, but I think for the purpose of the conversation, just kind of expressing that is good enough. So the first thing is, I actually want to know what's even being alleged. Like, what is actually even being alleged by your side? Do you?
And so Andrew, he's very good at getting people to clearly explain, or he attempts to get them to clearly explain what they really mean and why they believe what they believe. And in a case like this, it can probably frustrate people, but it's also important. But also, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Leave your DNA in the like button. Send Shadow a like vest. Spank the like button. All of those things help Shadow, the cult leader, to not get any strays, to catch any strays, excuse me. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. And make sure you're subscribed out there too.
Even have claims, or is it just we just want to ask more questions? Like, what is the actual allegation here?
Sure. So I think as far as I'm concerned, I'm not exactly sure who my side would constitute. I think it would
be like you, Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, people who are in agreement.
Now, Candace Owens probably will not talk to Andrew Wilson because he would force her to say decisively what she means. And that's kind of against her model. Like, that's not what she's going to do.
With what are considered alternative facts, or they don't agree with government facts that are being released, or various things like this, that would be your side.
Sure.
What are you guys alleging?
That Tyler Robinson was not the lone wolf shooter or assassin in the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Okay, now that's a huge claim, right? Do you agree with that?
I think it is a huge claim because that's what we're being told by the current mainstream narrative FBI.
Mm-hmm. So because that's a huge claim, I think that I have every business, since this is a claim going against all state investigatory evidence, which they've released, I have every business in the world holding your feet to the fire on that claim. And you would have the burden, the overwhelming burden, to release really good evidence for your claim. So if it is your claim that Tyler Robinson was not the shooter of Charlie Kirk, give me the demonstration of evidence which would be convincing to the alternative.
Sure. So, okay. So let's clarify some words here. So when I say lone, I should clarify and say not necessarily lone shooter. I understand there are many people who are skeptical that Tyler Robinson did or did not take the shot that actually killed Charlie Kirk. The lone actor, I think, is probably where I align most questionable. I think that the evidence.
What is that? Wait, hang on. I'm sorry.
I don't think Tyler Robinson
let me back up.
This out. I don't think
Did Tyler Robinson kill Charlie Kirk or not? Let's start with that. Did he kill him or not?
I don't know. I guess
okay, you don't know.
I don't know whether he did or not. I mean, there's a trial that needs to take place.
Okay, so do you see how we're getting into the
evidence? That
you see how that's ambiguous though? Like, what are we actually claiming here? Because before it was he's not the lone wolf shooter. Now it's I'm not sure if he shot him or not. The state says that he shot him. Are you refuting that or not refuting that?
I'm skeptical of that.
What does that mean?
I don't think you can say. I don't think you. How can you say definitively that Tyler Robinson absolutely killed Charlie Kirk and is the shooter?
Well, when you say definitive, when you say Andrew, can you definitively say that? I can't definitively say Superman's logically impossible. Like I can't definitively say that.
Okay,
but pragmatically, I can say pragmatically, right? Superman is impossible. When we're discussing this, I want to know specifics. If you're not claiming that Robinson was the sole actor, that's a different claim than Tyler Robinson didn't shoot Charlie Kirk. So let's be very specific. If you're claiming that Tyler Robinson did not shoot Charlie Kirk and the state is claiming that Robinson did shoot Charlie Kirk, what evidence would you be able to present which is better than the evidence of the state for that claim? Let's start there.
Okay, there's a few things that we can bring up as far as Tyler Robinson not acting alone as the lone wolf, shooter or actor in the Charlie Kirk assassination. So,
wait, hang on. That's not what I'm asking, though. The first thing I'm asking about,
that's what I'm claiming.
What is your evidence? Okay, so you're not actually claiming Tyler Robinson didn't shoot Charlie Kirk?
I am, again, it's innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if Tyler Robinson or not. What I believe.
Okay.
Why don't we just say that? Why don't we just say this? I believe that Tyler Robinson could have taken the shot. I'd like to see. There are definitely questions that I want to see in trial. That I think that I hope come out, like especially with regard to the video surveillance of him or whoever it was walking up the stairwell on the day of the assassination. We only have still pictures of that. I personally don't think that
So you're not claiming that he didn't do it.
I am not making the claim that I definitively believe that Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk.
Okay, so you believe that it's very possible that Tyler Robinson did kill Charlie Kirk.
I believe it's possible. Yes.
No. Well, okay. Unlikely.
One of my main
is it
issues,
unlikely?
though, is,
like what? You see what I mean by like I can't. It's always ambiguous. Like,
but it's not. It's
if
not
I'm trying to drive down on this. Is it your belief that it's more likely he did or more likely he didn't?
Andrew,
maybe we can start there.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical
of your skepticism.
I'm
skeptical of your skepticism. Great. That doesn't get us anywhere. I want to know specifically what the claim is. Is it more likely that he killed him or not?
Can you tell me if you believe Tyler Robinson definitively killed Charlie Kirk?
Right now, all of the evidence which has been presented shows that that's the stronger narrative. Yes.
Do you think that Tyler Robinson acted alone in the planning and coordination to kill Charlie Kirk?
According to the evidence presented so far by both sides, the state's making a much more compelling evidence that, yes, he did.
So you don't believe that George Zinn, who acted as a decoy in the immediate aftermath, was a part of that coordinated plan? You don't believe the Discord
hang on.
Beforehand had anything to do
I'm going to grant all of the shit that you just said. I'm just going to grant all of it. I want to see the evidence that he didn't shoot him. What is it?
What did you say? Sorry.
What's the evidence that Tyler Robinson didn't kill Charlie Kirk? What is it?
So the evidence that Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
People would argue that.
I'm asking for your argument, not people's.
Yeah. People would say the 30-06 not having an exit wound would be one of the main sources of evidence that Tyler Robinson did not take the shot with that specific weapon. But that's.
And remember, folks, this is where you're going to get to the bottom of things on this channel. We're going to present to you all the arguments. And this is kind of like a court of law. Judge Jared and Judge Shadow, the shepherd of black sheep or the wizard of radical self-respect, we will look over all these things and we will weigh the evidence. It could be like a modern day Socrates or a modern day, who is the one that was going to, King Solomon, that was going to cut the baby in half. That's what Shadow and I will do. We'll weigh out the evidence and see what is what.
Not a claim that necessarily I'm not going to hinge my entire opinion on that specific point. Is it unlikely?
Okay, great. Okay, hang on. Great. Okay, so you're saying you're not even sure about that. So what would be the compelling evidence that you would be using that would compel you past the state's evidence to say that the state would be incorrect about Tyler Robinson having pulled the trigger on Charlie Kirk? What specific things? What?
The specific things that would look, I believe and I think that it's very likely that Tyler Robinson could have killed Charlie Kirk. I'm not necessarily making the argument that he did not. My main concern
So
Andrew.
But you see, I mean, Andrew is doing a good job for this side of the argument, right? He's being a better prosecutor than Zach Costello is being a defense attorney for Tyler Kirk. So again, if you're the jury taking this, you might already have preconceived notions that Zach Costello's side is correct. But if you're an unbiased jury that knows nothing about the case and you listen to this, who would you think is more correct?
My main concern is that this is bigger than just Tyler Robinson. That is my main concern. If Tyler Robinson did take the shot, and I say if he did, because it's innocent until proven guilty, then this is a kid who was radicalized very quickly within 6 months leading up to the assassination.
Yeah, that's very, very, very common with transgender shooters.
It came out immediately in the media by mainstream media figures that there were foreign links to potentially the SLC armed queers group that had chatter about the assassination prior to. To me, that's very solid evidence that has come out in mainstream media sources that this is bigger than just Tyler Robinson, and he was not just the lone actor in this assassination case. I align very much so with Joe Kent, who, you know, obviously served.
You were saying all of this before there was ever a Joe Kent saying anything.
No, I know, but ultimately Joe Kent has now come out and almost verified many of the concerns that I've had, especially with regard to this assassination.
Okay, what do you think that Joe Kent verified?
That there are potential links to this being bigger than just Tyler Robinson, that the lone wolf narrative is not true.
That's not what Joe Kent said.
He said that there are leads that could potentially lead to
could potential, maybe, not sure,
that he thinks should be pursued.
Yeah, but that's not evidence of anything. Nothing.
Well, you're right. It's not evidence.
It's not evidence of anything. It's just so Joe Kent's entire narrative is that the investigation was turned over to Utah. That was it. And Utah thought it was pretty open and shut. That was basically what he said. They thought it was open and shut. If the state thought it was open and shut, why? Because they had the weapon, they had the suspect, they had all the text, they had the fingerprint on the rifle, they had everything that you could ever want and then some. So they said, well, the case, it's like finding a person standing over the body with the knife and the blood and the fingerprints on the knife. And that's how the state sees it. So you can endlessly investigate something, I suppose, but why? What are we investigating here? What is it that you think should be investigated? You say there's foreign.
So for the people that don't think Tyler Robinson did it, you have to admit Zach Costello is not really doing a good job here defending that side of it, right? There's more things to be saying, I think, that he's not saying.
Links, but Joe Kent never named what those foreign links are, right? He was told to stop wasting taxpayer resources by trying to pursue that because there was no reason to pursue that. Joe Kent also is a guy who he's only been with the Trump administration for less than a year, I believe, before all of this happened. Okay. He was, essentially the guy's a decorated war veteran. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I understand him going with his conscience when it came to the Iran war, but he did not give you any new evidence to support any of your theories here. Nothing.
He didn't necessarily give any evidence, but what he encouraged was the idea that, again, there are that the concerns that many of us have are in fact legitimate.
Oh, that's part of a bigger debate. Not Tony.
You've maybe had. Hello, everyone. Thank you for.
Thought it was open and shut. Why? Because they had the weapon, they had the suspect, they had all the text, they had the fingerprint on the rifle, they had everything that you could ever want and then some. So they said, well, the case, it's like finding a person standing over the body with the knife and the blood and the fingerprints on the knife. And that's
spoke about evidence that he was referring to that was not made public.
I have the evidence that the state has released thus far.
Okay.
You have a counterclaim to the state. You have a burden of evidence now, too, to refute the state.
Yes, folks, Shadow and I need you to get to 100 likes here at the minimum. It'd be a poor showing to not get to 100 likes, right, Shadow? So likes help pay for the hoodie snack. So throw Shadow a like vest. Spank the like button if you're feeling a little bit frisky there too. Don't let Shadow catch any strays out there. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Say hello to the flock of black sheep, like I've been saying. We have a great group of folks in here, so come in and say hello, especially if you're lurking.
You're saying I don't have access to evidence that the state has access to is not an argument for your evidence. What you just got done saying is you don't have any evidence for your claim, and Joe Kent didn't.
You know what happens, Rooster? A lot of the sheep wander out of the pen when Nancy Guthrie case is not being talked about. Or I guess I talked about the Duggar case and got a lot of views on that too, but it's very topic dependent. The black sheep roam through the countryside depending on the topic.
Give you any, unless he did, and if he did, show it to me.
Are you concerned that...
Hang on, show me the evidence Joe Kent gave, or did he give none? I want to make that clear.
Joe Kent spoke about evidence that he was referring to that was not made public.
Okay, so no evidence. Got it.
So are you not concerned at all about what Joe Kent has brought forward with regard to how the investigation was handled behind the scenes?
There was nothing he said which was particularly compelling from my position. So what all Joe Kent said was, and by the way, you're in this is party politics that you're diving into. Joe Kent was walking away from what he considered a moral situation with Trump and Iran. So because of that, he's doing a media tour. He's being asked about all sorts of other things. In this particular case, he did not leave the administration.
And yes, Rooster, notice this, the more young ladies I have in the chat, the more guys come in to follow the young ladies too, right? I've seen that dynamic. So again, sex does sell too. You're not wrong about that. Shadow acknowledges that for sure.
And over what happened with Charlie Kirk, because it must not have affected him nearly as badly, at least from a moral foundational perspective, as the Iran thing did. So he didn't seem like he was particularly upset about it. It seemed like he was just answering questions about it. Now, a lot of people are running with this as though he gave some sort of compelling evidence. You just got done saying, in fact, that your intuitions are now validated because of Joe Kent, when in fact, you just then admitted that you have no new evidence to present from Joe Kent. And so it's like, how are you validated?
Concerns a lot.
I think a lot of people hate Andrew, but I'll give him credit because his followers piss me off sometimes. I've fought with his followers before. And depending on the topic, I don't like Andrew either sometimes. But I will say his method of getting to the bottom of things is thorough. And I think it is helpful.
And with Joe Kent's concerns, ultimately, is I think the best way that I would say it.
Well, I'm glad
Charlie Kirk's name got brought up. Let me make a point. Charlie Kirk's name got brought up because Charlie Kirk and Joe Kent overlapped in the White House, and Charlie was adamantly telling him to not go to war with Iran. So that's the connection there of how that came up in the Tucker Carlson interview was.
I agree. I watched the interview. The thing is, though, is that you don't have any new evidence to validate any of these positions or intuitions. You just saying that you guys all have concerns together is nice, right? I'm concerned, they're concerned, the guy over there is concerned. But this is the problem with all of your claims, is that they're very vague, they're very ambiguous. And when we get to hyper specifics, when you say things like this validates my position and then say, but it gives no new evidence for my position, I don't understand how your position is then more validated by it.
Okay.
I don't actually understand that.
Can I go through, let me go through a couple points that I guess provide backing to my argument that this could be bigger, that I think is likely bigger than just Tyler Robinson. Can I do that for you?
Sure.
Okay.
But do one piece at a time.
Okay. Let's start with the day of and the basics. So George Zinn, the man who acted as the decoy, who said that,
what does that mean?
He stood up and said,
hang on, what does that mean?
He was the shooter. He stood up in the immediate aftermath of Charlie being shot and said that he was the shooter. And when he was receiving medical attention, and I can find the source on this, he informed the individual that was treating him that he was paid to do so.
Okay.
So that is pretty solid evidence that.
No, it's not. So let's go through it first.
So you don't think that
Well,
that
let's
is
well, hang
evidence
on.
that
Let's
the
go
day of was bigger
first.
than this Tyler Robinson.
Let's go first and foremost with the word that you used to describe this: decoy.
Okay.
So they're talking about the guy that said he was paid to do this because he said he did it. Let's see how they talk this out.
Give me your proof he was an actual decoy.
Well, he acted as a decoy.
Give me the proof of that. That's the claim restated.
He stood up and said that he took the shot, and he in fact did not.
Yeah, but a decoy would imply that there was coordination, and he was to act in this way specifically. By the way, that would run.
Well, if you were to ask me what is evidence, what is there evidence that he was trying to cover up, I would be like, he stood up and said that he took the shot and he didn't. Like, you're asking me to provide evidence, and I'm literally telling you what this guy did, and then you're saying, well, that doesn't count because you're trying to. I feel like you're trying to get me on the word decoy.
Well, no, I'm trying to just establish facts so that there's no ambiguity and you can't equivocate. Equivocation is when you use a term loosely so that you can move between two separate meanings of it. So I'm going to establish what is a decoy first and foremost. What is it?
Someone who would, or someone or something that would distract others from what is truly going on.
Got it. And so that would imply coordination.
I mean, I guess naturally, but yeah, I mean, I guess you would say yes. So
then what you're actually saying is that there was coordination between Tyler Robinson and the decoy.
Okay, what is the name? What word would you prefer that I use then, if not decoy?
Well, in this particular case, I don't know why you're even using the word unless you're just implying that there's coordination between whoever these alleged assassins are and this gentleman. Is that the case or not?
Maybe we can use the word distraction.
Okay, but that would also imply that there's coordination. I mean, do you think he just was doing this for funsies? Like he was just like, yay, I did this. Or do you think that he was coordinating with other people to play his part? That's the
question. I would just say, given his behavior, it seems pretty obvious he was acting as a decoy or a distraction from what was actually going on.
Therefore, he was coordinating with whoever these other assassins are.
Yes, I'm making that argument, yes.
Yes. Okay, got it. So then there's some sort of coordination between whoever the conspirators are who killed Charlie Kirk and this gentleman. Is that correct?
I would make that argument, yes.
Great. Show me the proof.
He acted as a decoy in the immediate aftermath and said...
That's the restatement of the claim. I want proof of the claim that there was coordination between this gentleman and any other conspirators whatsoever. Anybody from TPUSA, anybody who's related to Tyler Robinson, anybody who you would consider part of said conspiracy. Where's your evidence of coordination between them and this gentleman?
So between George Zinn and Tyler Robinson?
Yeah. Or any of the alleged conspirators who you may name.
So what's interesting about the potential connection between Tyler Robinson and George Zinn is that it was found, I believe, that George Zinn was also convicted of, I believe, child pornography. So he was.
How is that a connection?
Because Tyler Robinson was a deep online furry looking at the same stuff.
Wait, hang on.
Andrew,
proof of coordination. No. Hang on. You're not walking away from that claim.
Okay.
You just got done telling me that your correlatory proof of coordination was that this gentleman was caught or in some way is related to CP, to online CP. What the fuck does that have to do with Tyler Robinson?
Because Tyler Robinson was also in deep online furry transgender chat rooms.
Hang on. Have you ever watched porn in your life?
I mean, it's been a very long time, but when I was younger and I wasn't the best version of myself.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. We must be coordinating.
Okay.
So what Andrew does a good job about is like he gets you to see the connections that people are making and the logical leaps that it forces people to make. And Andrew basically says, no, you're not going to make these leaps without you explaining to me exactly why it's happening and the evidence. And what you'll notice is a lot of people can't explain themselves under this line of questioning. And it's not just in this topic. He was just on trigonometry and they were talking about all sorts of things. I don't think B would like that episode as much. But again, it depends on the topic.
You and I have never been together at an assassination where I was acting as a decoy to distract.
You
from
keep on
you
making the
taking a shot,
claim.
Andrew.
You keep on making the claim that there's a decoy there, right? Which implies coordination, but.
So Dana, the thing about the cult was there was a hater in the comments the other day that told Danielle that she was part of a cult because she followed me. And I was like, what? We're a cult? And then Danielle started owning it. And so I said, you know what? Shadow and I should have her back, and we own it too. So we called it the cult of Shadow, or the cult of the Black Sheep Nation, something along those lines. Indeed, they do, B. I mean, again, if it doesn't fall apart under scrutiny, right? That's a completely different story, right? And then that proves, yeah, maybe this is the conspiracy, right? Now, it would be interesting, this line of questioning with the JFK assassination, for example, right? That would be interesting too.
Can't show any evidence or proofs whatsoever that there was any coordination between this gentleman and fucking anybody who you consider to be a conspirator. And the only evidence that you could come up with is, oh, one did an activity which was unrelated to the other activity, but somewhat related to the other activity, therefore they're linked. That is not evidence of anything. That is not even, hang on, that is not even logical, sir. Not even logical.
You don't think that him saying he was paid to do so, paid to be a decoy, is not evidence?
He suffers from extreme mental illness, like many leftists do, who go out, including in the Unfuck America campaign, which rigorously followed around Charlie Kirk's.
That's a good one, Snoop. The cult of sheepinality. What do you think about that, Shadow? Instead of the cultural personalities, the cult of sheepinality.
TPUSA, for the purpose of clout, they attract the most mentally ill people that you could imagine. Okay? These people are fucking crazy. How do I know? Because I've debated with them. I've engaged with them. I know exactly what they are. This guy has significant mental illness. And by the way, early on, they thought there was a possibility that it could have been him due to those admissions until they began the investigation process, which is what you're supposed to do. They found the actual shooter. There is no evidence whatsoever that this guy, well, A, shot Kirk, B, coordinated with anybody, and C, is anything less than a left-wing lunatic. No evidence of that at all. And the best that you could come up with is that, well, he looked at GP online, which is fucking gross and disgusting, but reaffirms the fact that he's mentally ill, right? Where's the coordination with the conspirators?
You asked me to elaborate more on what the potential connection between the two of them are.
That's not a potential connection.
And the deep online sexual chats is not something that I just made up. I think
that's not a connection.
Okay. Andrew, fine.
That's crazy. How's that logical?
Leave the CP aspect out of it. I'll grant you that.
Okay.
The better evidence is him actually doing what he did right after the shot rang out and then saying that he was paid to do so. That to me is pretty solid evidence that he was acting as a decoy.
Do you know how many people make admittances to high profile crimes that they never committed?
Okay, so your argument is that you don't believe that George Zinn was a decoy because
there's no evidence that he was.
Because
that's why.
Well, other than him actually being the decoy, you're saying there's no evidence that
you just because you make the claim he is this thing, you have a burden to demonstrate he was this thing. When we establish what a decoy is, we've established that decoy means that you act in a coordinated fashion as some.
So again, it's like, if someone does that, do you think it's a mentally ill person that is acting independently? Or is it a guarantee that it's a connection with other coordinated people? Which one would you think it is?
Sort of distraction. Otherwise, you couldn't act as a distraction unless it was coordinated. You wouldn't be a decoy then. You'd just be some guy. So if that's the case, and you keep making the claim that he's a decoy, then what you would need to do is show evidence which would give me the relationship between him and whoever you think are the involved conspirators, and you don't have any.
But that's the thing, Aries. If you don't know, Andrew's point is that's not a logically sound position to be jumping to other conclusions from if you don't know. I think that would be Andrew's point.
Nothing.
Okay.
You
All
have
right, well,
nothing.
Well,
So you keep calling him a decoy, and that's the use of ambiguous language. And the reason I clarified it early on was because you grant yourself that he was, even though the implication is that there's coordination, and you can't demonstrate the coordination.
I think that we can, and I think that can move us to our next point.
Okay.
So I think it was the week after or so, on the Charlie Kirk show, J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller spoke about the radical left-wing groups or NGOs that were talking about or coordinating violence against conservatives.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I'm talking about here?
Of course.
There
radical
is-
left-wing groups and NGOs have been utilizing things like Signal and other things like this. Much of this has come out from people on the ground at the various riots across the country. I followed those very closely, along with the people here at the Crucible, the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of viewers that I have.
Yes, an investigation is supposed to uncover things. But if you can't get evidence for claims, then you can't build off of that as if the thing you didn't find evidence for is already confirmed, right? So you can explore it, but like you need to like find evidence for each thing that you're going to say is, oh, this is definitely true because we saw this evidence to confirm that it's true. And then you go from there, I would say.
Have followed those riots very closely. There's no doubt that NGOs play a massive part in that. 100% accurate.
The Armed Queers SLC group. Are you familiar with them at all?
Not that particular group, no.
That was the group who that is where the chatter came from prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination. This is the group that, and this is based on, I believe the FBI put this out. I believe this is part of the mainstream narrative. This is what Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance, I believe, were talking about that day. I can go back and check that. But this Armed Queers SLC group, this is the group that was chatting amongst themselves about something happening to Charlie Kirk on September 10th. There was chatter about foreknowledge of the assassination. And this is a group that the link between the Armed Queers SLC group and
yeah, I have it in front of me. I have it.
There's a link between them and Lance Twiggs, who then connected to Tyler.
Yeah, I have it in front of me. I have the evidence for this in front of me.
All right, so this is the trans stuff that we were hearing about before, right? The chatter about it before it happened. Let's see how they dish this out here.
So the federal investigators are probing whether or not it is the case. There fears Robinson could have been radicalized Robinson could have been radicalized by this group.
Yes,
that's what the actual claim is, and that claim's being investigated. Yeah.
Yes, but that's
then what's the problem here? What's the issue? I don't understand what's the problem then.
I guess there's no issue. I mean,
so then what is this evidence of?
This just goes back to my initial argument. It just goes back to my
see, Aries, he's making your point there for you that it's under investigation.
Initial argument of this being bigger than just Tyler Robinson and the fact that he was influenced by.
Well, no, it looks like it's pointing at Tyler Robinson. So it looks like what the probe is about is that this particular group may have radicalized Robinson. Not that they directly coordinated with Robinson to assassinate Kirk. That is not what the claim is. Can you demonstrate that that's what the claim is?
That this group influenced Tyler
Not
Robinson.
That they influenced him, that they coordinated with him.
See, this is okay. So as far as the coordination goes, again, we've already talked about and addressed George Zinn. We've already, I think, come to a agree to disagree moment with regard to that.
No, we didn't come to an agree to disagree moment. We came to a moment where you had no evidence for your claim again.
Well, again, I think the evidence is that George Zinn saying that he was paid to do so is evidence, but you obviously disagree with that.
Well, wait a second. No. I wouldn't disagree that you can say that this is evidence, right? He said this. I'm not disputing that he said this. What you would need to demonstrate is that it was true. That's what the demonstration would be for evidence, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, we're disputing whether or not he said that. No, neither of us are disputing that he said that. I'm disputing whether or not you have evidence that he actually did that. You can say anything you want when you're a crazy left-wing lunatic. People admit to crimes they didn't do all the time, especially for high-profile people, so that they can take credit for, especially when they're mentally ill. The left is no exception to this. In fact, they're far more likely to do it than anybody else. What's the evidence he actually did? That's what's in question. What's the evidence he actually did do that? And that's where you come up short.
Okay. I mean, again, him being paid to do so, you are arguing that George Zinn is a crazy person who had nothing to do with Tyler Robinson. He was basically an opportunist.
Give me the evidence to the contrary. Other than, oh, he said that. Okay, great. What's the evidence that he did that, though?
What evidence do you have that George Zinn is a crazy person who
because you just got done telling me that he looked at deep dark web porn, right, and was heavily involved in that. And CP, that is a person who's mentally ill, sir. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I think two things can be true at once.
So he is mentally ill. Do we agree that he's mentally ill?
Is looking at pornography a mental illness?
It is if it's CP, yes.
I guess. I mean, I can.
In fact, a classical definition is that that is mentally ill. Yes, very classical definition. Can we agree then that he's mentally ill?
So your argument then is that he is a mentally ill person whose word should not be taken seriously.
No,
given the fact that he said he was paid. Do you think that?
Nope.
No.
Let me be very clear. What I'm saying is that
know whether or not they have been paid to be a decoy in a certain circumstance or not. Because it's a pretty basic.
What?
It's a pretty basic.
Wait, say that again. Wait, say that again.
Do you think a mentally ill person is capable of knowing whether or not they were paid to perform a certain task or not?
Yes, of course they can be. Yes, of course.
Specific instance.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So you can't just say he's mentally ill, therefore everything that he says or everything that he interprets.
But I didn't say that. You are straw manning the claim. Can you steel man what my claim actually is so that you're not being bad faith? I want to make sure and then I'll steel man yours. Steel man my actual claim here.
That George Zinn is, because he was looking at CP, he's mentally ill, and you are arguing that because he is because he's mentally ill, and you are using examples of circumstances in assassination cases where people do take credit for them right off the bat, that we cannot necessarily take George Zinn at his word when he is receiving care saying that he was paid to do so.
No, you left out the most critical and key part. A, yes, he's mentally ill. We've established that as being fact. B, it is the case that people take credit for high-profile assassinations all the time or high-profile murders that they had nothing to do with. That's B. But C is the most important part. Where's your evidence that he actually was paid by anybody or coordinated with anybody to do anything to Charlie Kirk? That's the key part. The key part is my claim is that this guy's mentally ill. The state says he had nothing to do with the shooting. The state claims that he's also mentally.
Now, what adds to the mentally ill claim is apparently that guy did this at other events as well, or something along those lines. Now, I got to look into that. I don't want to be saying things without supporting evidence, but I'm pretty sure I heard that.
Ill. What is your evidence when the state says he had nothing to do with actually assassinating Kirk? What is your evidence he did? What is it?
He said that he was paid to do so.
That's, oh God, dude, it's so bad.
Why is that so bad? I don't understand why that's bad. He performed the act. He performed the act and then said that he was paid. What evidence?
Because when the state looked into
the financial transaction,
when the state looked into it, they couldn't find any links between this guy and the shooter. They couldn't find any links. They couldn't find any links between this guy and anybody. You can clearly see him in the audience not doing that, right? Nobody's claiming that he even pulled the trigger. Nothing. Nobody's claiming that. So you would have to show some evidence of coordination, some evidence he actually did the thing that you're claiming that he did. All you have is a quote from a mentally ill fucking lunatic. That's the entirety of the basis for your evidence. Do you realize how rational people see that?
Oh, I think rational people just see the behavior of this individual and how he acted and the claim that he made, and obviously suspect something suspicious with regard to how things played out that day. I think that's a
Driving Andrew to smoke more cigarettes.
pretty common sense way to look at it.
No, it's the listen, when you go through something, especially when you're talking about evidence or criminality, right? I hope to God I would never be tried and have you on the jury, because I would want you to look at whatever I was accused of and give really good substantiating evidence, which was very convincing to a person, right? And especially if you were in my defense, but if you're prosecuting.
See, Andrew would make a good prosecuting attorney. He would also make a good defense attorney as well.
Me, that would be even worse, because you would just take things which had no real evidence for them at all, and then say, well, this query needs to be pushed against Wilson harder, or something, he must be involved in some different way. Your evidence here is so flimsy. All you're doing is taking a quote from a man who both of us have agreed is mentally ill. Both of us have agreed that many such accusations happen inside of high-profile assassinations or murders all the time. And then C, the most important aspect here is that you have zero evidence of him being A, decoy, B, him being in any way, shape, or form coordinating with anybody, or any proof of any payment whatsoever. You literally have nothing but an assertion, nothing. So if I'm using my logical brain, I'm going to walk through, right? I'm going to say, here's the claim, here's the supporting evidence for the claim, here's how it makes more sense than the state's case. That's why I would use your theory over the state's theory. Here's what you just gave me. Nothing.
Okay. So
Shadow does need more Hootie snacks, by the way, in the form of likes, subscribing to the channel, super chat, super stickers, or becoming a channel member, or gifting channel memberships. And here's the thing. I mean, Andrew's right here about everything he's saying. I mean, if you want to propose that the state's theory is wrong, well, what's your evidence to suggest that? Let's hear it. And that's kind of what they're trying to get to the bottom to here. But Zach's evidence for his claim against doesn't seem to be the tightest.
I guess we can just leave it at agreeing to disagree on George Zinn being a decoy or not.
You were going to agree to disagree. Do we agree that you didn't provide any evidence for him being a decoy at all? Can we agree on that?
You have said, so the state has investigated George Zinn fully and has identified him as not serving not serving any role in the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
That's correct. Yeah. Do you have a counterclaim to that? Can you show me any evidence to counter that? Any evidence at all to counter that? Any?
The claim that I would the claim that I would make, and then couple this to and bring back in here, is again the groups, the Armed Queers SLC, and these NGOs, these violent left-wing groups that I believe, I don't know if there's a connection between George Zinn and these groups.
There isn't.
I don't know if that's been looked into or not.
Well, so
now what I don't understand is why not try to go with the gun evidence, right? Try that if you're going to try something.
It's really funny because the portion of evidence here that you're pointing to is actually worse for you than it is for my position. One, the FBI is investigating this group for any potential leaks. That's the first thing. But they're only investigating them for potential links towards Robinson as a form of radicalization. Was he radicalized by this group? They're not even making the accusation as to whether or not there was coordination with this group. And there's zero evidence that there was. None.
Are you concerned?
Unless you have some. Do you have some evidence you could show me there was any coordination between this group and Tyler Robinson? Do you have a shred of evidence you can show me?
Well, do you have this evidence? I mean, you're like
the state. Yes. Okay. Here's my evidence.
They're investigating it. Right?
My evidence is what the FBI is saying. The FBI, who are the investigators, who are there, and the state, who is bringing the case against the shooter for Kirk, the people who are empowered by the people to investigate these claims are saying, we want to make sure that we know who possibly radicalized this guy, and we're looking into this group for radicalization. They did not say that they in any way, shape, or form coordinated with him. That was a claim you made, though. Can you give me evidence for it?
Are you concerned that
don't ask me a question, answer my question. Can you give me evidence of coordination with this group or not?
They're looking into it, and you can't do this.
So no, you can't. But I wouldn't make the claim. You're making the claim, though. How are you going to make the claim and have no evidence?
I'm making the claim that this is bigger than just Tyler Robinson, and you admitted yourself right that they're looking into this.
They're looking into whether if all you mean by the claim this is bigger than Tyler Robinson is that nobody coordinated with Robinson, he was a lone gun shooter, but there could be potentialities of people who may have radicalized him, be it them being in a Discord somewhere or him being in a Facebook group somewhere. If that's all you mean by it's bigger than Tyler Robinson, sure. But that's not what you mean, is it? You mean that there was other groups which were assisting with coordination, Tyler Robinson. That's what you actually mean. Isn't that the case?
I think that there are arguments to be made there, but ultimately, here's my biggest concern.
So answer my question real quick, and then you can ask me whatever you want. Isn't it actually the case that you don't mean that by coordination that there's just people who you were in the Discord who assisted with the radicalization of your views, but that they actually tangibly assisted these people in his assessment? Isn't that what you actually mean when you say coordinated?
I believe that if Tyler Robinson took the shot, that it's bigger than him in that he was influenced by a certain group, and I want to know who that group is.
Okay, so that's no different than the state.
I think that's probably my biggest concern.
So you have the state's position.
The Charlie Kirk assassination case.
That's the state's position. The state's position is that there's a possibility that the guy was radicalized by other groups, but not that these other groups coordinated with him in the assassination. So you actually have the state's position here, unless you don't. Do you have it? Are you sure that's your position, or do you have a different position?
I don't believe that the state...
The guy on the left, Zach, is pissed because Andrew is forcing him to flesh out his positions, and he's just never had to do it. He's used to being more in an echo chamber where he says something, and everyone just agrees. Yes, that's evidence, just that. That's evidence. And then they go on to the next thing. But Andrew's forcing him to think through every aspect of it. So it can be frustrating when you haven't done it.
It has that position.
What do you mean? Why are they looking into this group
the state is
for the potential of radicalization?
Acted as a lone wolf, and then I guess you can say my main issue is Andrew.
Okay.
Will you at least grant that there are millions and millions of influencers out there who are basically just trying to pin this on Tyler Robinson being the lone wolf? He needs the death penalty real quick so we can move on from this.
No.
That to me is a very irresponsible position to hold when it comes
to
first
of all, that's a really stupid position for a bunch of different reasons. The first reason hang on. No. Your position that you just stated is a stupid position for a bunch of reasons. I'll explain. First of all, who cares? Let's assume that 99% of influencers want this guy to get the death penalty, right? Let's just assume it. That takes for fucking ever, dude. You don't just go, oh, guilty, and the guy gets the electric chair the next day. It goes through appeals. It takes fucking years and years and years and years.
Okay.
Before you get the death penalty.
After he's convicted.
What are you talking about?
After he's convicted, where do they put him? Do they put him out in public so he can talk and he can continue to make public statements about who was involved in all of this, who he was influenced by? No, he gets put away, locked up. We never hear from him again. That's
my God. Are we going to lock up somebody who assassinated one of the greatest political figures of our time? Oh no.
We obviously want whoever killed Charlie Kirk to be held responsible for it, but we also want to know every ounce
what are you
of
talking about? Do you understand how absurd the position is that you just had? If Tyler Robinson is convicted based on the state's evidence of Tyler Robinson killing Charlie Kirk, we're going to lock him up in a prison, and so he's not going to be out making media statements.
Do you
think that's what a revelation, man! You really, you blew my mind. I got to rethink my entire position now.
Do you think it's a good idea for Tyler Robinson to be locked up, convicted, and kept quiet without us having all of the...
Now, the real interesting thing would be if Candace Owens was on the left here, and to see Andrew put her under that kind of scrutiny. That would be interesting and entertaining. But somehow I doubt Candace wouldn't do that. Or it would devolve into like a shouting match, maybe. But wouldn't that be interesting if Candace was the person on the left? Now that would be something I'd be curious how that would go. Well, and maybe it's time to wrap this up for now because it is getting late. We're at 1:05 on this. And Heather says, I don't think I would do well questioned by Andrew. Sounds like my brother. Yeah, I mean, he can rile people up. He'll rile people up because he's got that kind of tone in his voice. And so it can kind of like get under people's skin, make them like not think straight. I don't think this guy on the left is even doing the best job defending the position. I think there's probably better defenses out there. He's just not giving it. Now, she would probably become furious, Snoop, actually. We got 100 likes? Hells yeah. All right, Wendy. It doesn't surprise me, Heather. That doesn't surprise me at all. This is true, B. It's a very true quote. But it's good, though. I mean, it's just good in terms of in this era of BS everywhere. It is good to question things. And ironically, of course, that's what Candace says she does too, right? I'm just questioning. I'm just questioning. The thing with Candace is she builds off of questions without the evidence being there, per se. I have not seen that so far, Rooster. I'll have to check it out. And I can maybe display it somewhere. Well, Snoop, there's another like 90 minutes to go of that whole interview. So we're going to pause it there for now. What does the fox say? I love that song. Shadow likes that song too, by the way. Sorry, Julie. We'll be back again tomorrow, though. Don't worry. And we're glad we got to 100 likes. The time does fly, Tim. It's 2:32. So we ran out of time, Snoop. But Teresa, Heather, Snoop, Rooster. Rooster has a design for the Black Sheep Nation shirt. I have a Revenge of the Black Sheep shirt. There's a couple others we can try to put out there into a Shopify store. Yeah, Tim, we did look at that the other day. We looked at what happened with Celeste. Who did we go over with that? I think Law and Crime Network. I think it was. Maybe Nancy Grace too. Do you think Andrew is a know-it-all? He can come off as one for sure. He can certainly be a little bit antagonistic. Tuck me in. Oh my. We have to figure out how that would even work. The print and ship. I'll be curious. Because I went to a shirt place by me too. That sounds like a you problem. Ha, Christy. All right, Autumn and Christy and Tim and Lori and Rooster and Julie, of course. And Jackie. Candace, you got it, Candace. And B, of course, as well. B's been here the whole time. She's been a trooper for almost 4 hours. Give her a round of applause, folks. All right, everybody. Have a great evening. Till the next day. You have a great night, Lindsay, as well.